with the kitchen sink. I try my best to wash them down the drain, but I can see them rising up again. Over and over again. Every morning it's just the same. My head hurts, throbbing with this pain, as I'm hung over and over again, as I'm hung over and over again. I'm falling off that wagon, 'cause the road was a little rough. Feeling down, it's a drag, man, and I just can't seem to get enough. And I swore I'd never drink again, but then I saw her standing next to him. On my knees I've fallen to the ground. So adios, won't be seeing you around. Over and over again. Every morning it's just the same. My head hurts, throbbing with this pain, as I'm hung over and over again, as I'm hung over and over again.
Get ready, modelers. It's time for the one, the only ChadLee Show's After Hours RC Podcast. Your hosts, the outlaws of scale modeling and possibly model aviation all together, Chad Osmus and Lee Watkins.
I'm falling off that wagon, 'cause the road was a little rough. Feeling down, it's a drag, man, and I just can't seem to get enough. Hung over and over again. Every morning it's just the same. My head hurts, throbbing with this pain, as I'm hung over and over again, as I'm hung over and over again, as I'm hung over and over again.
Well, welcome to the ChadLee Show. I'm Chad. I have Lee here,
Hey guys.
and we have Cary Bailey here from the UK. I don't know if that's the proper way. Now, we hang out with Steve Thomas, and Steve Thomas is a Welshman. And I guess there's a big difference between regular UK and the Welsh or something?
No, they
Oh.
just speak a different language.
Oh, I don't know.
It's kind of like
No,
English
no.
in the UP.
That-
It's
There
kind of like
is a-
English in the UP. Yeah, there you go.
yeah. The Welsh do have their own language, yeah, but generally they speak English as well. Even though it's Wales is it's deemed as a separate country, but it's it's still part of the United Kingdom. But I'm only 30 miles from the border of Wales.
All right, I think Steve Thomas is from there anyways. I could have just lied to everybody and made shit up, but I mean stuff up.
Tough up.
But
And our first edit.
yeah. And Allie, do you know where Allie's from? Are you familiar with him?
Ali Machinsky.
Yeah.
I know Ali. Where he actually descends from, sort of originally, I don't know, but his family and his father, Al's Hobbies, they're down south, London way.
All right. Yeah. He's got our radio.
They're always at the shows. Sort of Al's Hobbies are always at our shows that I tend to.
All right.
There you go.
So I guess, Lee, do we want to talk about, I guess normally we don't really have an outline for this show because I was too lazy.
Yeah.
But what do you got going on in your shop right now, Lee? Let's start with that.
I've just been posting the last day or two here, designing and 3D printing basically the cockpit interior for the P-39. So I've been kind of going hot and heavy on that here lately. So trying to get stuff done on it. So check out my page for the quarter scale P-39 build at Air Cobra Lee on Facebook. But yeah, that's been going really good. I have not gotten the exhaust stacks video done yet. I said I was going to, and well, guess what? That didn't happen yet. So
yeah, well,
I'm just glad we ain't got the designer here with us. That I can let him down easy. But
don't worry, I haven't done a whole lot of anything either. I just been working on my basement and buying airplanes.
There you go.
What do you have working on that you're working on, Cary? You got to have something cool, don't you?
He's working on a tan.
Yeah.
You're not doing a good job on it.
It's -5 centigrade in the UK at the moment, and we've got frost and a few inches of snow in places. But recently I've refurbished a Glen Torrance Fokker D6 third scale.
All right.
I've also refurbished a Mick Reeves Sopwith pup, which I'm preparing now for a show this coming Saturday. There's a premiere of a screening of a film about World War One called War Above the Trenches, which some of the guys in the Dawn Patrol and myself are presenting our aircraft, all British, at this premiere screening at Sandon Hall in Staffordshire. And then on the Sunday morning, I'm travelling north just for an hour to a place called Haydock, which is a famous horse racing track, and the Large Model Association have got their spring static show, and this year is particularly good because it's the 100 years since the formation of the Royal Air Force, and also 100 years since the end of World War One.
My boy just walked in. He's trying to be quiet so we don't hear him.
Ah.
I don't know what he's looking for. He grabbed a shovel and walked out. I don't know what's going on.
He made a mess in the driveway. He couldn't make it to the bathroom in time.
So you do stuff for movies then, eh?
Well, my wife's a film editor. She films sort of events and weddings. But I got to know about this screening through a friend of mine who told me that this film had been done. And the producer, a guy named Steve Saunders, he didn't, unfortunately, ask us to be involved with the filming. But now he's seen the photographs of the aircraft, he's actually kicking himself because he would have liked to have had our models, because you know yourself, guys, third scale models, you can put a lot of detail into them.
Oh yeah.
And they look stunning.
Yes.
Your D7, Lee, I too have got a D7. Mine's done in the Jasta 7 colours, which is black with a white tail and a stag along the side, which was flown by Major Carl Degelow.
Okay.
One question I have is, Lee has a D7?
I have a rekitted D7.
I got a line
That's
on
how scale I go into. I mean, I actually represent the crashes and everything.
I got a hookup on a half-scale Glen Torrance DR1 if anybody's interested. No?
Half scale. That's big.
Well, that's not too bad.
Well, it's definitely bigger than third scale.
Yeah. Well, if you like third scale and can put a lot of detail on third scale, think what you can do with half scale.
Yeah.
So we actually, Leah and I just ordered the wood for our half scale Newports that we're building.
Really?
Yeah.
Half scale Newports.
Yeah, Newport 17s. Half scale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, we're
You want in on
Americans.
that,
We
Cary?
like everything big.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know.
Oh.
I'm happy with my third scale D7, which I'm keeping. The D6, I'm actually going to put that up for sale.
Yeah, if you weren't so far away, I'd think about buying that one. But, yeah, that's all right. It's too small anyways.
Too small. And what's been on the workbench is my fifth scale Mustang, which I've again re-engined that. I've put an EME 35 in it. I had a Zenoa 38, but decided that I'd like a little bit more power, which the EME has got a little bit more grunt to it. So I was able to take quite a bit of weight out of the aircraft by changing the engine, because the EME is so much lighter.
Yeah.
So I've been working on that. That's now done and ready for retest flying. And then the next thing that's going to come off onto the bench is the quarter scale Mustang, which is a 3W composite kit.
See, now that's getting more my size.
There you go.
They had Lee, were you at Joe Knoll when they had the third scale Mustangs? The electric one?
No, I don't think they had that
They
one.
had an electric third scale Mustang.
Yeah.
And man, it wasn't flyable yet. They just had it out for display. But man, that thing was freaking massive.
Yeah. And the quarter scale is pretty big too. So
there's a guy in the UK named Dave Brown. Dave Brown makes retracts for Kingfisher Aviation.
Dave Brown makes spinners.
Dave Brown makes spinners.
No, this Dave Brown makes retracts.
What do you guys normally make your retracts out of over there? I mean, because we have the big, you have Robart, and then you have CenturyJet and Sierra. And there's the big debate on, they need to be steel, they should be aluminum, but aluminum wears too fast, and all that stuff. What do you guys prefer to use?
Robart or Sierra.
Oh yeah.
But I must admit on both counts, Mr. Brown actually modifies both sets of systems and puts bigger cylinders on them.
Yeah.
So that you can get a better airflow, where more volume as opposed to pressure.
Yep.
And that they're so much better. They're more fluid in their action, as opposed to, you operate the valve and bam, the gear is down, and bam, the gear is up. It's more progressive. It's nice and smooth by putting bigger cylinders on.
Yep. Definitely is true.
I don't normally have that issue flying World War One.
Well, yeah, you do when you do a touch and go, Chad. Your gear goes, pow!
Come on now.
Hey, when the flight line judge at Joe Knoll gets on you about it.
Yeah. It was only one day.
Yeah, it was good though.
Yeah. So, in the UK, what do they have for like we have our AMA? What do you guys have?
We have the BMFA, British Model Flyers Association.
All right.
That's not what I would have came up with.
No, I was. Anything
no
that has
close.
BF is.
Yeah.
But so,
Yeah.
what does that cost a year to join that?
It's I think it's around £36 a year. With your exchange rate about 140 a pound.
How much is 36 pounds in US dollars?
36 British pounds equals 50 United States dollars and 19 cents.
So $50. You know,
Yeah.
because our big thing is everybody's complaining about how much the cost is for us to join the AMA, and now we have this whole FAA thing, and everybody's complaining about that because they got to pay another $5.
Wow.
But
Yep.
Well, I paid my AMA membership.
There you go. Now the BFMA.
BMFA. Get it
That's it?
right, Lee.
I'm saying it the way I want to say it.
It's the big mother effing airplanes.
Aeronautics. There you go. Now that what pound rating or weight rating does that go up to, or is that like just our regular AMA, or do you guys also have another system too, don't you, for the larger aircraft?
Yeah, the Large Model Association covers aircraft over 20 kilograms. 20 kilograms is
Google
roughly
that, Chad.
46 pounds.
There we go. I don't have
Okay.
to use Google.
Nice.
So over
We got
46
UK
pounds,
Google.
you have to belong to a different group?
Yeah, if you know your model is going to be over 20 kilos or about 46 pounds, you have to register it with the Large Model Association. And that model during the build has to be inspected to make sure that you're building it structurally safe. And then once the aircraft is finally completed, then you have a 6-flight period where you have to be basically the aircraft witness flying it for 6 10-minute sessions with a few maneuvers just to make sure it's okay, of which you get then to do that you get a permit to fly, temporary. Then you send that certificate in with the signatures on to say that it's been witnessed, and then you get a civil aviation exemption certificate that is renewable every, I think it's 3 years or 4 years.
All right.
Okay.
And does that cost anything to do?
Only a membership
Right.
for the Large Model Association.
Because, I mean,
There has been a debate that at the moment there is a charge for that exemption certificate, which is I can't remember exactly what it is. It's around £50, which will be about $65 for you. But they were trying to get it so that it was for each model, which becomes expensive.
yeah.
They've now done it at the moment. The agreement is that if you pay it once, then it'll cover several models.
Well, and the reason I ask all that is, like I said, we have everybody, they complain about how much it costs to fly in the United States, and we have to do the AMA, and then we have to do the FAA, and if it's over 55 pounds, we have to get a waiver, which doesn't cost anything extra.
No.
Not like in the UK, apparently it costs $65 extra.
Yep.
So I mean, now it's more expensive to fly into UK, and it sounds like there's a lot more rigmarole because we just have to, once it's built, we just have to have somebody inspect the plane once it's built, and then watch us do our 5 flights. And there's a lot of people around, so it's really not as hard as people make it seem. But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to bring some light to the Americans who like to complain about everything, me included, because I've done my fair share. But we really don't have it that bad. It's comparable to the others. I think Germany's the same way with their weight. They're pretty strict on a lot of things too.
Very much so.
And I'll be going over there the end of April So I'll try and get some interviews with some people over there to find out more about on the Germany side what they have to do to fly. So I mean, you always see these huge planes coming from Germany, and I was told that it's the very elite that do those huge planes. You know, that's not the common thing, because we always think, you know, you always see these huge planes, you think, oh, over in Germany they just do massive crap with 800cc engines and stuff, but I guess it's just a select few of people that actually do that kind of stuff over there.
In Germany, there's quite a number of pilots, great pilots and great builders over there. There's, you know, we get quite a number coming to our shows in the UK.
Yeah.
They are very good at what they do, and they put the time and effort into it. When I know one guy went to a German show a couple of years ago, and he took an HP 42, big. I think it's 18-foot wingspan, sort of 1930s era aircraft with 4 engines, and he had to have it tested before he flew, wing loading, and they started putting sandbags on his wings to ensure that his wings could actually, you know, withstand the weight.
Wow.
And that was just before a show. Fortunately, it stood up okay. It was fine, but it was just one of those things that their certification is different than ours.
Yeah,
Understandable.
And I've got to admit, I've twice been over to you guys, to the USA, and flown at Vicksburg Tallulah Air Show, the Southern Heritage Air Foundation, and I've not been inspected. They've been relying on me to ensure that I give them the information as regarding where we're flying, how we're flying, and what we're flying.
Well, and that's exactly
working in coordination with the air boss.
Yeah, and your event that you went to, that's a full-scale air show too, so you're dealing with the FAA, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Because, I mean, I did the EAA thing, and I did some stuff in Port Clinton, I think it was, in Ohio, and I mean the FAA, they are on it. So, and you know, I guess what I'm saying is quit freaking complaining when you have to do stuff, because it could be a lot worse, you know. And
well, the two shows that I've done at the Southern Heritage, which is a warbird show. When you think about it, you know, you've got millions upon millions of dollars of aircraft there. And you're flying a $500 plane. You know, when you think about it, you're flying there, and if you have a problem, you know, it's nuts, because you can cause a lot of damage. But the way that I've been taught in respects of show flying, to get my Large Model Association competency and my certification in the UK, having the A certificate and the B certificate to enable me to fly, I've got to fly safe. And I was talking to the air boss the first time I was there, and setting out where I think I need to fly, and he says, "Wait, that's way too safe. That's great for us, but will the crowd be able to see your aircraft?" And I said, "Well, that's the rules that I have to work to. So we have to be 30 meters, which is near on 100 feet away from the crowd line, to fly. You know, we can't fly anywhere near the crowd. We can't fly towards the crowd. And if we do, you know, we've got to pull away, so that we're in a safe distance, so that the aircraft, if anything happens, doesn't go anywhere near anybody."
Yeah, and when I flew at EAA, we actually walked out to the other side of the runway and flew off the grass on the other side of the runway, or the taxiway, I guess, in between the taxiway and the runway. So we were quite a ways out on that one. But I mean, at our typical air shows, we're maybe 30 feet from the crowd, 30, 40 feet.
Sometimes, yeah.
I mean, on landing, a lot of times they don't want you to do flyovers over the runway, They want you to be on the far side of the center line, but I mean, it's definitely not 100 feet at most shows.
Yeah,
No,
it's supposed to, but
Is it?
yeah.
I don't know. We had 4 planes that went into the freaking crowd last year at the
Ooh.
events we were at, Lee.
Yes.
So,
Yep. And one of them was mine.
yeah, there was one that flew into the freaking tent. I mean, it literally crashed 20 feet away from the food vendor. You know,
Wow.
100
Yeah.
feet into the crowd. But yeah, and the sad
No,
part is
we-
that one could have been prevented.
I mean, you can never be totally safe,
Yeah.
if you get my meaning.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean,
And-
our radio, when you're flying large models, we have to have dual redundancy on the receivers,
All right.
so that we've got effectively 2 receivers controlling all the servos, 2 battery packs, so that in both cases, if one fails, the other one takes over. And a lot of guys are now using the telemetry so that if they do have a problem, their transmitter gets to know that they've got a problem,
Mhm.
which you usually can tell in flight anyway if you're a good pilot. You know your aircraft's not responding properly if you've got a dual setup, and some of the guys use the power box system. You've heard of the power box?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I use power box systems. Their gyros is what I use. So,
Right.
but
Yeah. Well. I mean, my D7 has got 2 separate receivers, each having its own battery, but opposite controls on them.
mhm.
So my right aileron is on one receiver, and my left aileron is on another. Same with the elevators. Throttle and choke are separate, so that if something does happen, I've got a chance of retrieving the aircraft and bringing it down. But as a friend of mine said, who flies the big 3D and IMAC planes, he says he doesn't want to stand in front of the judge in a court of law and get asked the question, what did you do for the safest availability for your aircraft to avoid the accident? And he said, I did the best I could. I'd got the best equipment that I could buy, and I have dual redundancy on my receivers. But if something falls off the plane, or if both batteries die, what can you do? You do your best you can
Yeah.
to fly, especially at shows. So you've got to be safe.
and back
And
when
again, the aircraft are scrutinized for one level of safety, which is if you have a problem, the throttle shuts down.
Yep.
That's a minimum.
Yeah, we have the same thing, and I mean, some of the events they check it. Others it's on your honor, and I've seen a lot of them where they've lost their I guess they had like a brownout or a blackout, and their engines die. But I've seen a lot of them where their engines don't, or they'll set it up, and after they have to reverse the throttle servo, they never rebind it for the failsafe, and when they lose, all of a sudden you got full throttle, But we used to do it was real big to do the redundant receivers, the 2 receivers in the before 2.4. Now that we've gotten 2.4, there's a lot of people that have gotten away from it. Me as being one of them. I don't anymore. Now I know a lot of people do, like Paul Eterno's one that does. But I don't know. I mean, at the same time, you have like with Spectrum, you technically have 4 receivers in one receiver. So I don't know. I guess that's why I don't do it anymore. I mean, but it sounds like you guys, even if you use the Spectrum with all the different satellites, you still run multiple receivers.
Over 20 kilograms, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just looking at the waiver for the full scale for AMA, the flight line spectator line has to be 250 feet away from the flight box.
Okay, so how many events have you gone to where you've seen that, Lee? Honestly.
Well, Dad's at a full-scale air show, though, Chad.
Oh, at a full scale. Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
They've introduced that now, have they, Lee?
yes, they have. And that was, I'm trying to see if I can find the date on this, when that was. And it's not, 2015 it was amended. So it is 250 feet.
But that's the AMA saying that, not the FAA, right?
Correct.
So,
Correct.
and I mean, at the same time, not to badmouth the AMA, but I've never seen the AMA come out and ever inspect a fly-in or say anything if there's been something wrong with the setup of a fly-in.
Now the 250 feet, that is just for regular prop jobs. If you're using turbine power, it's 500 feet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
For fixed wing and large model aircraft.
Now, I know one event that I went to
LMA.
that it was at a full-scale event, and I can guarantee you those weren't done. And that was at an event where the FAA actually had somebody that was our air boss.
Yep.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we've got the the air show at Tallulah Vicksburg. And
Yeah, go ahead and plug that a little bit, Cary.
Say that again, Lee.
Go ahead and plug that. Let people know what's going on with that.
Yeah. This coming October, there is an air show at Tallulah Vicksburg in Louisiana, and it's a charity full-size warbird event for the Southern Heritage Air Foundation. The chairman of there is a friend of mine, which is Dan Fordyce. Dan is actually a full-size pilot and flies a P-51D Charlotte's Chariot II, which he dedicated in honor of a pilot named Cary Salter from World War II, who used to live in Jackson, Mississippi. Cary had the latter part of World War II over in France. He came to the UK, got trained, was trained over in the States, and then got trained a little bit more in the UK, and then went to the 353rd Fighter Squadron, part of the 354th Pioneer Squadron of the Mustangs, and was based in France. Dan holds an air show every 2 years. His good friend is Steve Gustafson. Steve runs the Aeroshell aerobatics team, and they also have a formation clinic before the air show where guys, it's formation team for T6s, Texans, SNJs, Harvards, whatever you call them, and that's on for a few days before the air show, and then the guys hang around for the air show. So it's a great air show, and I was invited back in 2014 to attend the show because I got in touch with Dan because I always wanted to build P-51, and I decided that I wanted to do something a little bit different at air shows. I actually wanted to land my plane and then retract one of the wheels as if it had had some structural failure, and I was doing some research on aircraft that had done that, and I came across the story of Charlotte's Chariot II. Charlotte's Chariot 1 actually got shot up. Cary came in for a landing, landed, but as he stopped, the undercarriage failed, and he quickly hot-footed out of the cockpit. But I didn't know the guy's name until right to the very end of the information that I was reading about, and I said, hey, he's got the same name as me. So I took that on board and got in touch with Dan Fordyce, because it was a bit of information that was out there on the web, and the story was taken out of a magazine, a Fly Past magazine, I think it was. got in touch with Dan and said, Dan, I'm building a P-51. I like the colour scheme of Charlotte's Chariot too. Would you take me some photographs? And he said, hey, yeah, no problem. I'd be honoured that someone's building colouring their aircraft the same as mine. And he took me loads of photographs. And when I got the plane nearly built, I said to Dan, I'd love to bring my plane over. And he said, well, I hold an air show every 2 years at the airfield for charity. And I said, can I come over and fly it at your air show? And he said, yes. That's when I sort of found out about the AMA and what I needed to do and insurance-wise and stuff like that. And then Dan also then said to me, he said, you're crazy that it's going to cost you an arm and a leg to bring your aircraft over here. But I said, well, it's an ambition. And Cary Salter's still alive. My name's Cary. I'd like to meet him. So we did. Unfortunately, at the first air show, on my practice day, I actually crashed the aircraft on takeoff. I hit a bump and it ripped the undercarriage out. So unfortunately, I didn't fly at that show, but I actually shipped the aircraft back home. It would have been cheaper to build another one, get one of you guys to build it over there for the price of shipping.
Not this guy. I'm expensive.
Yeah. I shipped it back to the UK, repaired it, and returned in 2016. And in 2016, flew it. It was a one-time deal. No practice, nothing. I was competent with the plane, took it off, flew it with Carl Womack. He flew his P-40. We did a bit of synchronized flying. I came and landed it. Great landing. Carl landed, and then the air show just carried on. And that evening, at the after-show pilots' dinner, I presented Dan with my model. I gave him my model, which is now resident in the hangar, the museum that Dan has there for the 354th Fighter Group and 353rd Fighter Squadron. So he also got a fantastic museum, all dedicated to the 353rd, to Cary Salter, or as a constant reminder that this generation lived, fought for you, fought for us, and they don't want it to happen again. And that's why Dan has that museum there, and it's great. The great people, they put on a fantastic show. I mean, over the years, they've had Diamond Lil, B-24. They had P-40s. They've got a SBD going in there this year. There'll be all sorts of aircraft. I know there's quite a number of aircraft coming in this particular time because the show is getting bigger and bigger.
Well, now the thing with this show too is this year it is coming up in October, and I know you've asked me to become the CD for the show this year, so I will be going to it.
Well, they've said I've got to have a CD this time because I inquired as regarding when I found out about the requirements as regarding having a CD. When I inquired what do I need to do to fly in the States, they said, well, your insurance wise, join the AMA, which I did. It was Carl that sort of said, sort of, as long as you remember you can fly. I didn't know that you needed to have an AMA CD, but now that you're on board and you are a CD, then that's great. I'm advised also that the air boss this year is Wayne Boggs, which I believe is classed as the air boss for full-size air shows.
Yep.
It has been a guy.
Bless you, Chad.
I was dying.
It was a guy named Pete Tucciani, who's acted as the air boss for the last couple of shows, but It's great. It's a really good do.
Okay. And one thing, we are going to be looking for a few more pilots, RC pilots, to help out with the show as far as bringing airplanes, good quality warbirds that have flown in front of large shows and stuff too. So definitely, if you're interested in it, let us know, me, myself, or Cary, on Facebook and whatnot. We do have to be kind of selective as far as pilots go, just for the AMA and FAA thing goes, being that it is a full-scale airport. But definitely get a hold of one of us and look up the show dates and whatnot.
Is that why you're not letting me fly, Lee? Because I'm not competent?
Well, your touch and goes run really, really long. We've got a limited amount of time. We can't fly for an hour.
Yeah, it seems like we're getting 2 12-minute slots, which would be great. And the other thing is that Billy Trosclair and his son Devon,
Yes.
Devon's actually slotted to fly his 42% edge.
Okay.
And I believe he flies the pants off that thing, which would be really great to watch.
Are you saying that when he lands, he knocks the wheel pants off of it, or what?
He doesn't want to answer.
Man!
He does all the flippy floppy stuff, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean by, sort of it's, he flies the pants off it.
Oh, I tell you, that was terrible, Lee.
I know it. I had to throw it out there, though. But yeah, like I say, get a hold of either myself or Cary, and we can go through there, and we'd love to have a couple more people down there. I know we've extended out invitations to a few people already, so if they're willing to come out, let us know, and we'll get it in there. So,
what's the exact date on that?
It is October 13th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, Saturday, October 13th, but we also have quite a number of days up to the show where we can actually go and practice at another airfield called Scott Field, which is 1 mile outside of Tallulah, 5 miles away from the Tallulah-Vicksburg airfield. Again, tarmac runway, all available for us to use anytime we want to get some practice if you want to do that.
Okay. So, I mean, if we want to, we can make it a couple day fly-in, if you will. We can go down there and fly for a couple days and then do the air show and whatnot. So,
Yes.
what days are you planning on being there, Cary?
I will be flying in to New Orleans on the 9th of October.
I gotta stop you right there. It's New Orleans.
New Orleans.
New Orleans.
New Orleans. I'm a Yankee, but man, I still know that.
You're a Yankee,
Yeah.
Lee?
Well, maybe. Maybe.
You aren't below the Mason-Dixon line?
Just above it, buddy.
Just above it? Well, you're on the good
Yeah.
side of it then. Ask me
There
how
you
I
go.
know.
That's because you gotta go down to Canada.
Yeah, sadly. Canada's south of me.
There you go.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Parts of it, yeah. I got some buddies from Canada, and there was an air show that we would go to in Canada, and I would actually go south to go to the air show, and all my friends from Canada live south of me.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
yeah. But I don't know. I like it where I live. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
There you go.
Cool.
Which is why I got a traveling job, so I only have to be here 4 days a week or a year or a month. 4 days a month. That's it.
There you go. You're just trying to get out of winters, that's all.
Hey, I'm going to Dallas next week and then Tampa the week after, so I don't care.
There you go. You'll get a suntan.
Yep. I got to get ready for the summer shows. I don't want to be coming in looking like Cary.
I hear ya.
Yep, I'll be white. You'll spot me out. It's rather shiny on the top of my head, as you can see.
Don't worry, Lee's got the same problem. That's why he wears a hat everywhere.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah, well, some of us guys are a little bit older,
There you go.
Yeah.
So, Cary, another thing that I've actually come across too and became a customer of. Why don't you go ahead and talk about that? Because I know you just launched the website. As far as what else you do.
Yeah, you're gonna be a one-time customer, Lee.
Dang it! Why is that?
You've become a friend.
Oh boy.
Oh, now it's going to be mates rates.
Yeah, oh boy. Here we go.
Do you know what you've gotten yourself into by saying Lee is your friend?
Oh
yeah.
He has no idea. Wait till October. He'll unfriend me from Facebook and everything.
I just booked our hotel for Toledo, and I actually booked 2 hotels, one on one side of town, one on the other, so that way I can be as far away from him as possible.
Heck yeah.
Oh, does he snore that loud?
Well, it's not his snoring you got to worry about.
Yeah.
All I was told when I first started staying with Lee was, if Lee starts, just let him finish.
Kind of like a dog.
The smells are that bad.
They can be. I am a plumber.
So, I don't know. I'm going to tell a story about Lee. I don't know if you heard this story. We were at Monticello the first year they did that event, and we were all drinking around the tent, and all of a sudden Lee goes to the bathroom. About 45 minutes later, we're like, where's Lee? He never came back. Here he's sleeping in the porta shitter.
It smelled like money. It was a good day.
So if there's a smell around, it's Lee's work.
That's right. That is right. It was good.
This is quite unusual. I'm looking at Lee with his robot T-shirt, and I'm looking at Chad who's swinging around a robot retract.
Well,
Is that advertising or what?
Oh man! Whoa!
yeah, I actually got scolded apparently by Robart. I won't get into it because I don't want to get Lee into trouble, but yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, this is it's not a retract. It's just a strut for this is what I'm going to use on my PT19. I'm not using the I don't know. Are you familiar with the Dynaflight PT19?
Yeah.
They have the wire gear, and Robart makes the robo strut that the wire gear slides into the top.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I got the one. I think it's for who made the tri-pacer that I had? I can't remember his name. Hostetler. I believe it's for his PT19. But they have this little thing, and then it plugs up in. That way, I won't get the duck gear where it's going. So that's one modification I'm going to do on that PT19 I got. So
yeah.
Trying to get stuff acquired for it.
Right. Yeah. So you're on about my parts that I make.
Yes.
Yeah. It all came about when I was building the P51, and I bought a set of the exhausts from Pacific Scale, Tony Howard. If you remember Pacific Scale, who used to make the scale exhaust for the P51.
What was? I don't know if I ever heard of them.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, a couple of years ago, Tony passed away, and his wife decided no longer to carry on with the business.
Was that an American company or UK?
American.
Was it?
Yeah.
I never liked P51, so that's probably why. Is that the one you got from him, Lee?
Yep.
From Cary?
That's a P39 3D printed Allison 2-in-1 manifold exhaust stack.
that nobody can see. Because
You guys can see it, so
well,
yeah.
we can see it, but
There you go.
everybody
Oh,
else is wondering what the heck we're talking about.
It's this right here. See it?
Now
So,
I did. Go ahead.
I bought a set of these Pacific scale ones, which were fine, nicely made, but they were a resin base, and then they were just a brass tube stuck into them, and you painted them up and make them look like an exhaust. But I had a second P51, and I wanted another set, and I found out that Tony had passed away. So I wanted to find out if it was worthwhile, where could I get some more scale exhausts? And there wasn't anybody. If you wanted to start making a resin mold and make your own brass bits, but I thought, well, there's 3D printing around. So I got in touch with a friend of mine who put me on to a friend of his who just happened to live in Cologne in Germany. And his name is Bert Schmidt. And I got in touch with Bert and said, Bert, I believe you're pretty damn good with a 3D printer, and you're also pretty damn good with a 3D software. And I said, look, I'm looking to make up some exhausts. Do you think we can sort of make some? And I threw some sketches around to him because I'd got the measurements of the actual Packard Merlin exhaust stack off my friend Dan, because he just happened to have one on his bench when his aircraft was having an engine service, and he took all the measurements I needed.
Let me stop you right there. He just happened to have a P39 exhaust stack on his bench.
P51.
Oh, P51, okay. I guess those are a little more common. I'm sorry, I was getting a beer. My bad.
Dang it.
All right.
Sorry about that, Chad, but a friend of mine does happen to have a P39 2-in-1 exhaust stack.
Yeah.
Actually, in his museum.
There you go.
Henceforth, that's why I was able to make the P39 for Lee.
There you go.
I don't have cool friends like that. I just have Lee, which I think I just lost them.
Hi, everybody. Chad Osmus here from the ChadLee Show. I want to talk to you a minute about the most historically accurate, lifelike pilots in the RC hobby. Best pilots are the pilots of our choice, so accurate they are displayed in some of the world's premier aviation museums. Lyle Vassar of Best Pilot produces hand-sculpted and molded figures approximately 1/5 scale in size. Each pilot is a reproduction of actual World War II pilots, including U.S. Marine Corps Pappy Boyington, U.S. Army Air Corps Bob Sweeney, Royal Air Force Sailor Milan, German ace Gunther Rahl, and Japanese ace Saburo Sakai. Vassar also offers a quarter-scale World War I German ace Lothar van Richthofen and generic 1/8 scale bomber crew figures. Unlike cloth dolly-type pilots, Best Pilots are cast in resin for a more scale appearance of flight gear. And also, unlike dolly pilots, Best Pilots are sculpted in realistic, seated postures and will stay that way no matter how grueling the mission. Prices range from $65 unpainted to $235 painted for 5th scale and $95 unpainted to $235 painted for quarter scale. Also, Best Pilots can be turned into personal versions of yourself using a 3D printed face matched to photos that you provide. These amazing mini-me's are truly the ultimate final touch for anyone's scale airplane. Available painted or unpainted, email lylevassar@typepad.com for pricing. Don't fly with dolls, fly with Best Pilots. Go to www.bestpilots.typepad.com to order, and make sure you join Best Pilots on Facebook.
All right, so I don't know where we were when I cut off, but I guess we'll just have to pick back up, and because of my technical difficulties and lack of plugging in my phone after I told him, I said, he's sitting there telling us how professional we look and all this stuff, and I forgot to plug my phone in.
You got glitches occasionally.
Yeah, it is what it is.
All right, so you want to pick up where you think we were at? I think it was about I don't remember the P51. We were talking. You had just said about how your friend has the P39 in a museum, and then you went back to the P51. So
yeah, friend of mine's got another friend of mine in the UK's got a museum, and he'd got a set of Allison exhaust stacks where it's a 2-into-1 for the early Mustang, and of course it's with it being very similar engine. The stacks were identical, so I picked up those dimensions to make Lee's P39 stacks. But originally, when I got the dimensions off Dan on his P51, I was able to transfer that information over to Bert. Bert then tweaked the design, and we did some test prints in normal PLA. And they worked out great, but obviously PLA, its sort of melting temperature is a lot lower than ABS and sintered ABS. So we decided that we'd print them in a sintered ABS, which has got a lot higher temperature and won't be affected by ambient air temperatures, and we can actually use them for cooling around an engine bay without any major problem.
Are yours hollow, Lee?
They are hollow, except for the very base, which basically just go through and drill it out.
So you would just have to open that up, eh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can't use them for a genuine exhaust, hot exhaust gases, but they will work for cooling. And to be honest, on Charlotte, I actually made an exhaust system so that 3 of the exhaust stacks were actually active against the other 3 that I'd printed off.
Well, and that's actually really smart to be able to use those as cooling, because that's always the big issue on those radiated World War IIs is finding the spot for the air to come out.
Yep.
And still not cutting a huge gaudy hole. I know I always yell at Lee because he tries to keep everything as scale as possible, and I'm the one that, just make it so it runs and it runs good, and if you got a big hole, you got a big hole. But that would
the only problem with the P51 is where the exhaust stacks are in relation to where you're going to mount your two-stroke engine in a model. The cylinder head is underneath.
But if you baffle it properly, it shouldn't matter.
Well, the method that I actually used to baffle Charlotte was the fact that below the cylinder, hardly any air got to the crankcase, because I was directing the air from the chin intake, baffling it straight over the cylinder, and then behind the cylinder was the exit place where the air was coming out. And I directed it so that it had to come out there. If you start sort of channeling and baffling, sort of air to go in different places, yourself, the air will want to go to the least path of resistance.
Yeah, it flows like water.
Yep.
Yeah. So it can be done. I mean, some of the guys that have had the exhaust stacks off me for other aircraft have used them for a little bit of cooling. And they've said, well, they're cooling for the crankcase area, so it's giving it a bit of air movement that way, which is fine. The crankcase don't get anywhere near as hot as the cylinder do.
Yep.
Well, and also they point backwards, and because of that, it creates the low pressure, and it actually creates a vacuum as well. Yep. So
that's right. That's right. That's why that's why we made them out of the sintered and the ABS, because it will stand a nice ambient temperature.
Man, I don't care what Lee says about you, Cary. You're all right, buddy.
Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah, that's.
And the other thing that we do make for them is on a P51, it's got a shroud that covers the stacks.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So we also make them as well, and we can 3D print them. Or we do have now the molds to make them out of a resin, just a thin resin. So we can make them in any scale up to third scale. And the other thing that we've done, because it's not only the P51 exhaust, we do the P39, the P40 in both versions. We also do the exhausts where they're not just round, but they're the fishtail type.
Yep.
We've done them for several guys that have got the British Typhoons and the Spitfire and the Hurricane. So we've got all those designs done, and they're available, and we can print them off. And we also do World War One stuff. So we do have the Spandau gun, the Vickers gun, and the Lewis gun. And we also do some of the cockpit dials and gauges and valves.
How big can you print the World War One guns?
What? For the Spandau?
Yeah, Spandau or Vickers.
Third scale? You're thinking a half scale now, aren't you?
Yep.
How big of a machine does he have?
He's got the unit that Bert has. I believe it's the Multi-Maker 3.
Okay.
I don't know nothing about any of that. That was all just gibberish to me.
Right.
I tell you what, the 3D printing stuff is it's very cool, especially for somebody like me that likes to do scale detail stuff. As long as you're kind of willing to take some time and learn a CAD program and the 3D software and stuff like that. Like I said, just doing the dash panels. I've been doing a bunch of things on the P39. As a matter of fact, I even did a spinner for the P39, which I had to go through and retrofit my printer just so I could actually print it.
Yeah, I got to work on getting better with my SolidWorks program.
There you go.
So
it's just like anything. You got to use it to get the hang of it.
That way I can draw stuff up for you to print out for me, Lee.
There you go.
Because I'm too cheap to buy a printer. I'll buy the laser, you buy the printer.
All right.
Hey?
Yeah. So, that's a win-win.
He's actually got a highly modified Ultimaker 3 3D printer.
Okay.
Bert is an amazing guy. He's an automated vehicle engineer, one of the top guys, and he does a lot of work with Google.
All right.
And the machine that he's got, it's I believe he can print things up to about. Obviously they do them in sections, but a 250 mil bed, I believe the Ultimaker 3 has got.
250?
Yeah.
Yeah, my machine will go 220 by 220 by 230 high.
Ooh. Yeah, I don't know if you'd be able to get the whole barrel done in one piece at 250 on a half scale.
Well, you'd put it on an angle, like on a 45-degree angle. Then you can start fitting in that cube.
Yeah.
But hang on, guys. We don't actually print the barrel. We laser cut an aluminium. So the barrel is actually aluminium.
That's aluminum for us American people.
Americans.
I knew that one was coming.
It's Chad, can you hand me that aluminum barrel?
Lee can't even say it.
Man, just give me a beer.
Yeah.
No, the barrel is actually aluminium or aluminum, as you call it.
Hmm.
And then we have the end pieces that are 3D printed that hold the frame together. And then there's a center barrel, which is an aluminum tube.
Yep.
That goes into those pieces.
Aluminium tube.
That
holds it all together.
Huh.
Come on, Chad. We're trying to get some class in this show here. You know, we're trying to get the King's English in here for her.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I was practicing all week, so.
I hear you.
I
was failing miserably, so I just gave up. Did you get your fish and chips, though, Chad?
Did I? No.
Yeah. Loser.
No. I didn't. I was in Kansas City, and we're on the boulevard where we were at, which is like I guess a big area. I don't know, but it was all Mexican restaurants. I'm talking like 100 Mexican restaurants, nothing else.
Really?
I've never seen so many Mexican restaurants in one spot in my life.
Wait till you go to Mexico.
Even there, you probably have more American restaurants.
There you go.
Yeah, it was crazy. But
so, Cary, if anybody wants to find your stuff, where do they go? Oh man!
I could send them to you if you like, but
man.
I have a website, and the website is Carber Composites. CARBERCOMPOSITES. CarberComposites.com. Log on to there, have a look, and send me an email. I'll pick the email up and I'll ping you right back any information that you need.
And we have that on our ChadLee page, don't we, Lee?
Yeah, I shared a link to it
All right.
on our ChadLee page, so that is on there. Just scroll down and sooner or later you'll find it.
You got it on our links post also?
That I got to find the links post and we put it up at the top because we had our t-shirts, which our t-shirts have been ordered and they should be coming in, I would imagine, the end of this coming week.
Fantastic.
So we should be having them.
Which,
that was a nice segue there.
On a side note, you never did tell me how much I need to get you for those.
Oh man, it's gonna cost. Well, you got the hotel room for the Toledo so far, so we'll call it. We'll figure it out.
What are you talking about? I put it on my points. It's free.
Sweet.
That's the beauty of traveling. I get crap loads of motel points.
It looks like I'm going to be drinking Toledo for free then, huh?
Yeah, I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy that will get the motel on my points and then charge you half, Lee.
Okay. I'm used to it.
Speaking of which, you should have Chuck contact him about the hurricane stuff.
There you go.
He might be interested in that.
Yeah.
I mean, not anymore now that I just made fun of him, but...
Well, if he listens, I don't know if he does or doesn't.
I'm sure he doesn't.
Yeah.
Somebody will tell him.
Oh, yeah. He'll get back. He'll get back.
Yeah.
So, Cary, are you planning on doing anything else other than just the exhaust stacks and the guns or anything? Are you planning on going into full cockpit kits and pilots and everything else?
No. The reason is that you've got a pretty good guy over in the States, I Fly Tailies.
Yep.
Alex?
And he and I have had a quick discussion as regarding, we don't want to tread on each other's feet or each other's toes. He does a pretty good line of cockpits. I've said if I can help him out in any way, please let me know. So, sort of, I don't want to interrupt him in what he's doing. I'm also aware that he works closely with the guys of Aero Cockpit over in Europe.
Okay.
So no pilots and cockpit complete, no. But I also do gun ports. for the P51, for the P40, for the P47, Spitfire, Hurricane, the barrels. We're just working on redoing the Browning M50. Everybody goes, oh, not another one. But in certain instances, a lot of people don't get the detail right. So we've managed to get a lot of information regarding the Browning gun, and we're revisiting that. We also do the fuel caps, both for the wings, fuselage, and the drop tanks, which they're pretty much the same in World War II. They were pretty much, the same. And again, we can scale them up to what people require, whether it be top flight size, there's the Rolly size, the top RC size, or ChadLee or whatever. And we also do the antenna. Again, P51, P40, P47. We do those. Again, dimensions. We've been able to grab hold of an antenna, get its dimensions, and scale it, draw it up in 3D, and it's available. One of the things that we are looking at the moment is the tail wheel. The P6 and the P51 shared a very similar tail wheel, the actual wheel. And when you look at buying, the alloy wheels, they're very, very expensive. But nobody does a tail wheel of that size, suitable. Yes, you can go and buy a Dubro or a little robot wheel in plastic, but sort of what we wanted to do was come up with a wheel and a tyre that looks right, and have a 3D printed insert that will click into a wheel, and that can be sprayed up to look, cast alloy. But it still be light. So we're working on that at the moment, because as you know, the P51 tail wheel is flat. It's a very, very sort of square shaped, cross section with little cattle inserts all the way around the outside of it.
Yep.
We know that they're still available to buy, full size, because people are still making them, but nobody actually makes them for a model. So that's what we're working on at the moment, and if we can get that, that's another product we can add to the line of stuff that we do.
There you go. And knowing, as far as wheels go and stuff like that, I know a lot of people always want to know, I know they ask Robart quite a bit, why don't you guys have diamond tread wheels for this size or whatever? And frankly, it comes down to money. People don't realize how much money it actually goes into to make a prototype to go into manufacturing of said tire or wheel. A 6-inch tire may cost you anywhere 15-20 grand just to get to where you can start manufacturing them. That's a lot of money to throw into something like that. So that's why when people are complaining that they don't have what they want, there's a reason behind it a lot of times.
Well, a lot of the scale guys, they build their own, don't they? They either mold a tire.
I'm trying to take a picture for Facebook, Lee.
Oh,
do what?
We're taking a picture for Facebook. So smile pretty.
Well, the three of us.
Lee, you got to put your phone down.
I got mine.
Oh. I didn't get it yet.
Oh, come on, Chad.
All right, I got it.
All right.
Sorry. Carry on.
Yeah, so, I mean, I do know guys that have asked me the question, sort of, do you know anywhere where we can get hold of diamond tread tires? I know years ago you were able to get them, but I'm not aware that people are making them now.
I did see where Dino is offering them. I'm not sure exactly what sizes he's got, But I did see that. I seen a post the other day on Facebook that somebody had said something about it, and he said he does have them in stock. I don't know whose they are or whatever, but Giorgio. So check out his website. So
Yeah.
that's the last place that I heard anyway. So
There was just
Yep.
a post on Facebook about that, wasn't there? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
that-
referencing, Lee?
yeah. And Lyle was the one that commented about diamond tread wheels for the P51,
Yeah.
and Dino said he had them. So
I used to have a set of diamond treads. I wonder where the heck those went.
and
I don't know. I'll have to look for those. Because I need a set I need something. They got those Dubro balloon wheels on that PT19 I bought.
oh man, man.
Yeah. I do have a question for you, Cary. I wanted to talk about what's the I wanted to talk about the differences between the air shows in the UK versus in the States. Because if I'm not mistaken, I was told that in the UK you guys get like a time slot that you get to fly in. Or am I completely wrong? Was I lied to?
What do you mean by a time slot?
Well, I was told that you have an event for a day, right?
Yeah.
And say there's 20 people there. They assign the people a certain time that they're allowed to fly their plane, and they either fly it during that time or they don't fly.
The air shows in the UK generally do set up slots for flying. Yeah. And what we do in the morning is that there's when they're signing in, they get assigned the slot as regarding what time they're flying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
a lot,
generally how it works.
Yeah, that's a lot different than in this, because we get people and I'm just trying to compare the two different countries is what I'm trying to do. And we get people that complain saying this person's flying too much here, or it's too windy, so I'm not going to fly. I'm going to wait until it calms down. And you guys don't necessarily have that choice over there at a lot of your events.
At a fly-in, not a show, you can fly all you like.
Yeah.
Dawn till dusk. At shows, the particular shows on the LMA, and even the one show that Steve Bishop holds, which is the Western Park show, you're all allotted times so that they can give everybody the opportunity to fly.
Yeah.
And that the crowds can actually see the products that are being flown, because if you get in sort of one model that's been flying all day, they don't get to see everything. So they like to have a World War I slot, quarter scale. They have a Dawn Patrol slot, third scale. They'll have a American fighter slot, various sizes. They'll have a British fighter slot. They'll have a Cold War jet slot. They'll have an aerobatic slot. They'll have more jets. They'll have a glider slot. The list is endless. This year, the Large Model Association are having a particular slot to commemorate 100 years of the Royal Air Force. What a lot of people do actually forget is that Royal Air Force were born in 1918, not 1914. It was the Royal Flying Corps in 1940.
Well, and we had the same thing with our Air Force. It was originally the Air Corps, which was part of the Army, and then they branched off to their own.
Yeah.
So that's because the Army is the best branch in the U.S. military. So just throwing that out there.
There we go.
Yeah, well, sort of the Royal Flying Corps, they were observers, really, at the start of the World War One. They were just observing so that the troops knew where the enemy was. It wasn't dogfighting, it wasn't fighting in the air until, and I believe it was a French guy that actually took a rifle up with him and started shooting at the Germans.
That changed a lot come World War II, didn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess I look at the events and I hear the time slot things. You know, I think of like Top Gun. We had the time slot, and you know, at the scale competitions we do, but at a big show that we do, you know, I mean, you get up in line. So if you want to fly, you just get up and you wait your turn in line, and anybody can fly anytime. They just get in line for it. And I don't know, I like the way that works, because I'm the type of person, when I go to an event, I want to fly. I don't spend $500 to go to an event to fly for 2, 3, 10-minute flights. You know, I want to get some airtime in. So
yeah, I can appreciate it. That's why I said at the Southern Heritage Air Show, can we get 2 slots, so that the guys that have travelled, you know, a substantial way, even though the full-size guys travel a fair distance, but modelers have to drive there, so they can be driving 12 hours plus to come to an air show. And if they have that one little problem, that time slot, the engine doesn't start, or they have a servo failure, that's it, it's gone. So when I spoke to Dan, he said, I think we can work something in, so we can get 2 chances.
Yeah, and that's why this first year, Lee asked me if I wanted to come this year, and I told him, I says, I really don't want to. For me, I'm just starting a new job, so I'm limited on vacation as it is. And for me, it's like a 16-hour drive to get down there. And I would have, 3 days minimum of vacation time in to fly for just two 12-minute slots. That's a lot of money for me. I'd rather go to a show where I can get some more time and wait till I have more vacation time and make it a different year-to-year event, you know?
Yeah.
So
he's not coming then, Lee?
Evidently not.
No, you didn't tell him, Lee?
No, he was leading me out there, buddy.
Oh.
I might come. I might fly down there.
Well, and I guess I shouldn't say that, because I may, if it works out on a weekend that I come home, I may fly down there, but I just wouldn't bring one of my airplanes. So I may come to the show. I just won't have any airplanes there. I'll just fly in, have Lee pick me up at the airport, and do that. So.
Well, the other opportunity is that, again, we've got Tracy Fogelson, who's got Carl Womack's P40.
Yep.
I'd be flying Carl's old P51, which should be its last flight before it gets donated to his old company, because they're going to put it up in their showroom. But if Tracy isn't competent to fly at a show, then, and Lee, if you're bringing something to fly as well, Dad, you could just hop on a plane, turn up and fly.
Yeah, and the other thing I thought about doing too, Lee, is just leaving my airplane with you. And have you bring it down. You know, so. But
yeah, we got to find out from Cary too, from Tracy, if he is going to actually. I know he said he's going to make it. I don't know if he's going to be able to take it planes down there or not or whatever. So obviously, as it gets closer, we'll know more.
Well, he said he's definitely coming, because he's bringing Carl's father, James Womack.
Okay.
So and again, I don't know whether Tracy's ever flown at a show.
To be honest with you, I don't really know. I know at Goshen this year, I flew the P40 twice. Was it, Chad? I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because the canopy come off the one time, right?
Yeah, the rear window came out, and it actually has a big rudder on a high-speed low pass. Yeah, and that thing started oscillating like you would not believe. I thought it was going in the ground.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, I was maybe 10 feet up off the ground.
Well, luckily you were able to. Yeah, you were able to figure out real quick what was going on and compensate for it. But
yeah. It was scary, I'll tell you that. You gotta be kidding me.
I was spotting for you, wasn't I?
Yeah.
Well, the thing is,
look at me and go, what are you doing?
Shut up, Lee. Let Cary talk.
Yeah, well, one of you guys may be flying that P40.
Yeah.
Because if Tracy's not flown at a show, Mr. Contest Director, I don't suppose you'll be allowing him to fly, will you?
Probably not, unless he does a lot of shows this summer to prove.
Well, I've told him he's got to get his competency up to fly at this sort of show because he can't be nervous.
No, Tracy, I know you're going to be listening to this. You know, maybe drinking 3 fingers of whiskey or something like that, working on the airplane possibly, or just sitting around. Get your butt together and get out to the fly-ins and fly.
We want you to fly, Tracy. We need you to fly.
And it's way more fun to fly than to just spectate.
Yep.
So,
well, for my first show at the Southern Heritage, I ended up being a spectator, but I was laughing because I said to myself, if I don't want to break this plane, I shouldn't be here. Yep. And I broke it, so I had to laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
if you don't want to break your plane, then leave it on the mantelpiece.
Yeah. And I mean, anytime you take a plane up, you run that risk.
Oh yeah,
Lee more so than everybody else.
We go scale.
And sadly, I think I've been spotting for you every time you've crashed an airplane.
Well, that's because you're not there.
Well, no, I wasn't spotting. I wasn't spotting for the 2 World War I's. I was flying with you.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think. Did we even have spotters then?
No, that was Dawn Patrol. So that was all hands on deck. Just go.
Spotters are overrated, anyways.
Yeah. and unless you stabilize them with a cherry.
Yeah. Sadly, we'll never be invited to another one of Cary's events again after this conversation.
There you go. Like I say, it's going to be unfriended on Facebook and everything. So.
Chad and Lee, I have no idea who those guys are.
Listen,
of which, Chad, I like the fact that you said it's my event. Whoa. I just seem to be the catalyst as regarding bringing you guys all aboard. I mean, I want this show to grow, but you can only try.
Yeah. Well, Lee knows firsthand how tough it can be to run a show and how much work is involved.
Oh boy!
In running a show or just being part organizer of a show, Yes.
Yeah, there is a lot of background work that goes on. It doesn't seem like a lot, but when you get down to the nitty gritty, there becomes a lot of work. So, Cary, did you ever get any of the ChadLee stickers?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember hearing all this thing. Oh, I'm going to get pictures of these and throw them up there. Never seen anything.
I haven't been flying.
You don't have to fly to take a picture of a sticker?
Wow.
Man. Oh, well.
Throw them under the bus right away, Lee.
Hey, we're going to do it. We might as well go big.
See,
so,
right. Well, you don't want. I tell you what I'll do. I shall take a sticker to work, and I shall stick a sticker on my PC screen at work.
There you go. I mean, I've got them on my wall, although it's kind of hard to see right there, but right above the keep calm and build on.
Oh, just wait, Lee. Just wait.
Oh, boy.
I got this iPhone for work, and the camera button is in the same button or same place that my to take a picture is in the same place as my go home button on my other phone, my Pixel. So I just took about 20 photos trying to go to the home screen on my iPhone.
Nice.
Let's see. I got to keep talking, Lee.
Well, don't feel bad, Cary, because we sent some out to Jeremy. I'm sure you've seen him on our posts and stuff. Jeremy
Mr. Christman.
Yes. And, I'm going to get all kinds of pictures of this and everything else. And never seen anything from it, so don't feel bad. That's all I'm saying. We get promised a lot of things, and we never happen, so we're getting used to it.
You just like to rub it in, Lee.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. So,
Okay.
I tell you what, you get a picture of the stickers over there in the UK. I will get the video done on the exhaust stacks and put them up. How's that?
Right, deal, done.
All right. See, we can work trades out here.
I'm at this screening at this stately home on Saturday evening. Next Saturday, and I've got quite a number of the UK Dawn Patrol guys actually with me on the night. So I shall hand them out a sticker to all of them.
Excellent.
And I'll get a group hug with a sticker right in front of us, and get a photograph taken.
Excellent.
In a stately home, in a very old stately home.
Do you use Facebook on your phone, Cary?
Yeah.
Do you have your phone by you?
I do.
Just just saying.
Just saying.
That may or may not have happened.
For those of you who didn't realize, I was very quiet as I was frantically posting a picture.
Yeah.
Lee, did you see it, Lee?
Oh, man. Not yet. It wouldn't let me go through it.
So.
Oh, boy.
But yeah, I don't know.
You're getting a response, Chad.
Oh, did you hear the ding?
I did.
So, I guess it's all fun.
You got it.
But I guess everybody's gonna know we're definitely recording a show right now, judging by the posts I've been putting up during the middle of it.
There you go.
So
that worked. Yeah, I've been getting travel plans for next weekend as far as trading off an airplane that I'm doing.
How many shows do you normally go to a year, Cary? Just curious.
I'll be going to East Kirkby in the end of May. Then I shall be doing Weston Park in June. Then I shall be doing Old Warden, the Shuttleworth Collection in July. Then I shall be at Weston Park, RAF Cosford in July, the 100-year celebration. Then I shall be at a Charlton Park, which is a memorial for a pilot. And then I shall be doing Much Markle, an LMA show in September. And then I'll be out with you guys.
Well, possibly us guys. Lee for sure.
Yeah.
Possibly us guys. Oh, man.
Oh.
Now my phone's going to be dinging the whole time.
There you go.
I do aim to sort of one of my bucket list, or two of my bucket list events that I want to go to is obviously Oshkosh and Reno.
Well, if you ever want to go to Oshkosh, I live like 30 minutes away from there. You're more than welcome to stay at my house and save on some money.
Done.
If you want.
Next year.
Hey, let's do it. I'll take vacation so we can go.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right.
I have some contacts there. Maybe I can get hooked up too. So we can
do a ChadLee tour.
Yeah, there we go.
The ChadLee tour
of EAA.
I'm sorry, guys, but this has got to change. It can't be the ChadLee tour anymore if I'm coming along.
Well, yeah. Normally people don't stick around long enough with us to justify a name change. So
wait, Chad, we'll wait for like the third or fourth show before he bails on us.
we tried adding a third person to the show, and it only lasted one show, and then the next show he was busy, and then the show after that was, I don't think this is a good fit for me at this current time, guys.
Yep.
Well, the ChadLee show with special guests.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, well, it takes a strong person to hang out with Lee and I guess.
Yeah, well, the moment ChadLee works, but if you put a third person in, what's it going to be? Sort of, who's going to be first, Chad or Lee or Cary or, you know, is it going to be the Cary ChadLee?
Well, it would have to be the Cary ChadLee because we do it in alphabetical order.
Oh, I'm in.
You know,
I'm in.
Not most people probably thought I was just conceited or selfish, you know, wanting my name first, but which is true. But I can claim that it was alphabetical order.
It's all right. With the last name of Watkins, I'm always at the very end of the line.
Well, you know, and when Lee and I first started doing it, I think we started it at EAA, didn't we? Calling it the ChadLee Show. And we were trying to come up with a name on what we wanted to name it. This was when I was working with Balsa USA. And we kept going back and forth. And Lee Chad just didn't sound as good as ChadLee, you know?
Yeah.
So it works, I guess.
Yeah. No, I can be the silent partner.
Well, you know, the silent partner normally has to give us a bunch of money, right?
Yep.
They're normally the money person in it.
That's right.
Yeah,
just throwing that out there.
Yeah, well, silent can also mean silent but deadly, you know?
Yeah. Oh, God, he's going to eat beans.
Going back to that low-budget productions, you know?
Yeah, lower the tone of the area.
So, do we want to do some of the questions that we had?
Sure, why not?
We'll get...
This be like a Freedom of Information Act?
Yeah. Do you have them, Lee?
I've got a couple.
You got
all of them.
Are they the ones from the ChadLee page? That post? Yeah, that's nobody commented on any of the other stuff. I don't think that I cared about. So
if they did, it's too damn bad. They need to go back to our page.
Well,
put them on there.
I told them, take that to the bank.
That's right. I didn't write down the name, so forgive me for not writing down the name.
Before you start, I just have one more question. Cary, are you considered English?
Yeah.
All right. So this will be the Englishman version.
International.
Yeah, international. That's how we roll now. We have international guests from around the world. Granted, we just suckered one person in, but that justifies it, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, Lee, go ahead.
All right. One of the first questions / whatever you want to call it was fuel tank setups. What do we guys use? What kind of clunks and what kind of fuel tubing and stuff like that? And I'm trying to think. Was that Bernard Ederly, I think, to ask that, or Robert Abercrombie?
No.
I can't remember, but
I don't. Where was that one posted?
That one might have been in our messenger.
Oh, okay. I think it might have been Bernard. Let's talk about that. Let's spend a little bit of time on that, because I'm curious to see what they do in England also. For me, I've done it two different ways. I've done where I've used the Viton tubing, which is the black, because it doesn't get hard, and then a clunk. And I've also done where I've used the brass tube and then two pieces of tubing. You look confused, Lee.
No, I was trying to pull up something here, but I switched over probably about 3 years ago to just strictly Viton tubing into the tank, and then anything outside of the tank, I still use the Tygon for gasoline engines anyway. Yeah, and I leave my tanks full of fuel when I transport, when I store, unless it's over the winter. Yep.
And the reason for that is when everybody says that their Tygon tubing hardens up on
Dries
them,
out.
it's the fumes of the gas that does that, not necessarily the gasoline itself. So when you empty out your fuel tank, now your tank's just full of the fumes, which helps dry it out a lot quicker. So there's that. What do you guys like to use?
Over here in the UK, it's mainly Tygon.
Yeah.
And we generally leave the fuel in the tank, even when we're storing them, so that it doesn't dry out the diaphragm in the carb.
Yep.
And it doesn't dry out the clunk. We use a filter, a felt filter clunk.
Yep.
Now, over in the UK, you guys don't run any ethanol, do you?
No.
Okay. That's where we have one of our big problems is
See?
ethanol.
USA.
Yeah.
Let me pop this open. This is at B&B. You know what I'm talking about, Lee?
B&B specialty?
Yeah. You use
Yeah, we use those.
Yep, that's
Yep.
kind of what you use. And for those of you wondering, B&B Specialties has that clunk that he's talking about, and I use those too because I love them. They filter the fuel great.
They do.
Um,
That's
The thing
all I
is
use.
that the thing is with us that if I service my fuel system every year anyway. So even though I leave fuel in there, fuel sort of does vaporize, does go, and I prefer to sort of strip the carb down, make sure the diaphragm's okay, change the fuel tubing, and replace my clunk.
that seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, but safe, and the engine's going to run right.
I just flip mine, and if I have problems, then I look into it.
Well, if we were to drain the fuel out, your clunk goes hard and your diaphragm stiffens up.
Yeah, no, I'll leave my fuel in, but then I do the same thing. I go through my fuel systems once a year too. I'll clean out the little screen in the carburetor. Check, make sure my clunk is. I don't necessarily pull the tank apart, but I move to make sure that my clunk is hitting the sides as it rotates, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, normally every 2 to 3 years, I'll completely rebuild my whole fuel system, replace all the line, everything, just to keep it where I have pliable fuel lines running places,
Right.
So.
Yep. And with that, he was also asking on locations for the filters and stuff like that. And like you just said, Chad, with the clunk from Bennett, that's actually inside the tank. I prefer having it that way. It's one less leak possibility in the line going to your carburetor.
Yep.
If you have an inline fuel filter, whatever.
Now,
So
you do run into
No.
problems where when you're fueling, you're basically, that clunk is trapping all the stuff if you don't have a separate fuel line. Because I run a T for all my stuff and I fuel through my clunk. So I do make sure I have a couple of fuel filters on my tank when I'm filling my 5-gallon tank that I use,
Yep.
just to help prevent it. And I use the B&B clunk inside my fuel tank also that I'm pulling the fuel from to fill my airplanes.
so do I. I usually end up using a 3-line system on mine. So
I don't. That's too much work. Yeah.
There you go.
But yeah, I'm with you, Lee, and I have a feeling with Cary was just about to say he disagrees with that maybe, but I don't run a fuel filter in line from the tank to the airplane normally.
No,
Okay,
I
if
don't.
we just keep talking real fast, you can't butt in.
Yeah,
Then,
that's how
So
we work it.
That's it. So
No.
next question.
No,
No, do you use a fuel filter in line?
no, I filter the fuel before it goes in the tank.
So we're all on the same page.
Yep.
See, great minds think alike.
It's international.
Yeah.
International.
All right.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Now, there we go.
Yeah.
The kiss method.
Correct.
But now, are you familiar with those roto tanks, the octagon? You ever use those?
The one that's got the brass tube running down the middle.
Yep. And then
Yes.
it's got where it rotates on that tube.
I've seen them. I don't know. It just didn't seem to be right to me, because once that sort of clunk arrangement starts to wear, that could be jittering around.
Well, I tell you what,
off the line.
I had an issue with one of those. I've used one, and I had a rough landing, and it actually bent that brass tube, which prevented my clunk from being able to move. And I kept my engine and I'm assuming that's what happened, because when I was flying, my engine kept dying on me when I was doing maneuvers, and I couldn't figure it out. Finally, I took it apart, and that was the problem. That brass tube was bent a little bit, and it jammed the clunk to where it couldn't move. So I haven't used one since.
Yeah, I've seen a few of them. People have issues with them. I've never used one personally, but I have seen people have issues with them. Leo Spichala was one of them that I know I had a problem with that. Leo, I can just see
what. How did you say his last name?
Spichala. That's how I say it.
I'm fairly certain it's Spicala.
Well,
I mean, I could be
tomato.
wrong, but yeah.
Tomato.
Hey, last names are a big deal, and you need to say people's names right. That's why I hate reading off people's names when I don't know how to say their name. I feel so bad.
I hear you. But another issue I can see on that too is just a grunge on that brass tubing, causing problems with that moving back and forth freely.
Yeah.
Well, after a while, the brass tubing starts to go green with
the tarnish,
black, and it just breaks down with fuel. So you've got to service your fuel system every so often.
Yeah, and they're super expensive too. So I don't know. Teach his own, I guess.
Well, you guys use something else besides Tygon tube then?
Viton tubing. I'll send you some. I have some I can send you, and it's basically it won't harden up. Very resistant to hardening. The only issue with it is it's opaque black, so you can't see the fuel in it, which is why we normally only use it for inside the fuel tanks, and it's expensive. The other advantage is the heat. It's not affected by heat like Tygon is.
Right.
So
you just use it inside the fuel tank?
Yep, just inside the fuel tank.
It is flexible enough to act as a clunk.
Oh yeah. It's just as flexible, if not more flexible than Tygon.
More flexible than Tygon, yeah.
Oh right.
Yeah. We'll get you some. I'll send you some. Yep. I'm buying some more. I'm out right now, but I'm buying some more when I go to Toledo. So I'll mail you some so that you can try it out.
Yeah, because the other thing is, are you still after those flying wires?
Yeah, I will be. I want to put them on the pits that I'm redoing.
Because I've got a spare set of Sopwith pup flying wires, which I've taken off my pup. I'm not going to use them. I can send them over to you if you can pop me your address. Well, I mean, what these are all pre-cut. So what length do you require?
I'd have to measure it. What scale pup was it?
Third.
Yeah, they're probably going to be too long, because this is just a little pits. It's like a quarter scale pits, a 28% pits.
Well, you've got a pair of cutters. You know how to cut them.
Yeah, I guess I could do that too. Resolder. Are they airfoiled?
They're flat.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll talk after the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Cary, if you need his address, just look on John Cease's post. You'll find his address sooner or later.
No, he got rid of that.
I know. I didn't know. Maybe Cary screenshotted it or something and kept it.
Yeah. Did you? I don't know.
Oh, happy birthday, John.
Yeah, happy birthday, John. Thanks for putting my address on Facebook for the whole world to see too.
As he took his off the package.
We mailed him. He won something from the ChadLee show, Cary, and we mailed it to him. And obviously, I put my return address on, and he made sure he crossed off his address, but he left mine right on the package, took a picture, and put it on Facebook. It's like, really?
He's a true friend.
I guess so. So he didn't think about it, I guess. That's at least what he told me. I don't know.
We had birthday cake to eat.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we'll talk about that more after the show.
Okay.
I saw you called me on Facebook the one time, but when I'm traveling, sometimes I'm working odd hours. So
That's okay.
But any more on that one, Lee?
Yeah, we got some more questions here. This one's kind of a generic one. What to look for when you go into a swap meet for buying a used gas engine and or airplanes.
All right, yeah,
What
that
to
was
look
from
for.
David O'Brien.
Okay.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, David O'Brien. That
Yes.
sounds Irish, right? O'Brien?
Yeah, it works.
I mean, that's what we're
Yeah,
saying.
that works.
I'll drink to it.
I tell you what, me personally, I try not to buy stuff at a swap meet. Granted, I'm completely contradicting what I just did a few weeks ago. But for those of you who know me, I have a soft spot for the Dynaflight PT-19 because it was the first giant scale plane I ever owned. Back in the, late 90s, mid 90s, something around there. So yeah, that's why I bought that, and it just happened to come with an engine, which we'll talk about that whole Facebook toboggle after the questions. But yeah, I try not to buy used stuff, but I guess if you're buying it, the big thing is that turn it over, make sure it turns over nicely, and make sure you're not paying more than half of what it costs new, in my opinion.
Yeah. Another thing to check would be the prop, how much throw was actually in the prop shaft itself.
Yeah.
How much end play you have in it. I mean, if it's excessive or what have you, you may want to walk on that. If it's got a lot of fin damage on the airplane, it's been stuffed in the ground then. And you may want to keep on walking as far as that goes too. Another thing, be prepared if you do buy a used gas engine that you're probably going to need to end up going through and rebuilding the carburetor. I know it seems like everybody just wants to go buy a brand new carburetor, but you can buy repair kits for the carburetors. You just need to know model, make, and whatnot, and it's not that hard to do to repair them. So, and that's another one where B&B Specialties comes into play. Over here in Granger, Indiana, they got all kinds of carb rebuild kits and stuff like that. So, at least for Zenoa anyway, I know for sure. So, but as far as used airplanes, I hate buying them personally.
Yeah.
You just never know what you're gonna get.
Well, and I mean, as long as you understand going into it that your chances are you're getting something that somebody else doesn't want to deal with anymore, whether it's because it had issues or they just got sick of it. 99% of the time, it's probably because they had issues or the plane's in such dire need of repair that it has to be redone anyways. From what I've seen, I don't know how is it over in the UK.
Yeah, we do have the chances in the UK where they sort of, try and sell a model that they've just basically tidied up by putting a new covering on it and it looks good, and then you fly it and it falls apart because all they've done is recovered it, and there's joints that are poor or fuel sodden or various reasons, or they weren't a good flyer in the first place.
Well, that brings me back to a question that we was talking about the LMA earlier, Cary.
What does LMA stand for? Did I miss that?
Large Model Association.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. All right.
Now I know you said that they have to have an inspector come out and basically inspect the airplane as it's being built. Is that one time that he comes out, or 2 times, or 3 times?
Several.
I mean,
they advise you. They sort of say, right, you've gone this far with the model. Let me know when you're sort of halfway through, say, the wing construction, and I'll pop over and have a look at you again.
Now, here's another question. What if you don't realize the airplane's going to be as heavy as it is, and all of a sudden you find out, well, crap, now it's, what did you say, 46, or say it's 21 or 20 and a half kilos, you know, and what happens if you have it too far along and now you find out that it's going to weigh over when the whole time you thought it was going to be under?
First of all, you haven't read your instructions properly, because if you generally you know what sort of weight that aircraft is going to be, you know, coming in at. You know a top flight is P-51 is going to be around 24 pounds, something like that. Even the larger models, you know, Balsa USA used to sort of, you know, state that a D7, you know, was going to be a certain weight.
Well, I can tell you right now, you cannot go by what Balsa USA puts, because they never weigh their models. They just guesstimate.
Yeah. Well, we know you can't build a D7 under 20 kilos. It's not possible.
Yeah. And the only reason I say
it wouldn't be strong enough.
I design a lot of my own stuff, so I don't have that option of the kit says it's going to weigh this much, you know. I'm guesstimating. I mean, most of my models are going to be over, you know, the 20 kilos if that's only 40 pounds. But
yeah, so the guys over here, you know, they do, especially if they're a member of the Large Model Association. If they're going to build a large model, they generally know we better get this inspected. It's always wise to do that. If the model turns to be under the 20 kilos, then fine. You've still got it inspected, but the only thing that you don't then have to do is have the 6 flights for the exemption certificate.
Yeah,
so it's still safe.
So if you let's say you go to a swap meet or whatever, and you buy a large airplane, does that have to be re-inspected then, since transfer of ownership?
Yes. Re-inspected and permit to fly 6 flights, and then you get your exemption certificate. So you can't buy a model that is certified over 20 kg and not have to do that. You will have to re-register it and do your 6 flights.
Okay.
And how does that work that way with the airframe inspection? Do they just look at it then as it's a whole if they aren't pulling the covering off, or do they require a certain tear down to inspect that?
No, because if it's already been
inspected,
checked through previously, and it's already been through the system,
all right,
then they know that the inspector who did it, they will go to his records and find out how it was built. The new owner then registers it. Generally, it's always best to have an inspector just to come and check it over, and then go and do your 6 flights.
Makes sense. The other question on that I have is, what about after a crash or you're repairing? Is there a certain process that they do that way? If it's been in an accident, do they, while you're rebuilding it, come back and re-inspect the rebuilding, or is that just an on your honor thing?
No, they it's always best to get it re-inspected after a crash.
All right.
If you're going to even re-engine it, they recommend that you have somebody to come and have a look at it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen a lot of models that I didn't trust that, an inspection probably would have done them good.
Yeah.
And normally it's the people that complain about having to do that stuff are the people that are probably not doing it properly anyways. That's why they're worried about it.
Yeah.
Because I
tell you one thing that was a big complaint when IMAA was around. At some of the events, they would have a safety officer come around and literally pull on your control surfaces and stuff just to make sure that the hinges were in good shape and whatnot. And people threw a holy hell of argument. He shouldn't be touching my airplane. Well, I can personally tell you, I've seen a lot of rudders that got pulled out, a lot of elevators, that the hinges weren't glued in.
Yeah.
I come from a racing background. I've done a lot of motor racing in my youth. And every event that you go to, your vehicle is inspected. It's scrutinized and it's checked over. They pull spanners out to check that your nuts are tight.
Yeah, well, and
even
it should
the ones
be.
And even the ones that are attached to you, they check those that your nuts are tight.
Yeah.
Oh boy, tighten them up.
Dynamo.
That's why I don't race in the UK.
That's right. We go commando here.
Yeah, well, I've raced against you guys in America when I was racing.
Uh-oh.
That's it?
Oh,
I was waiting for a cool story.
Yeah.
well, I've raced in your national series at Willow Springs in California.
All right.
Cool. Cool.
I don't know what that is,
Yeah.
but what kind of cars was that?
That one, in actual fact, was you'd call them go-karts, but
Oh.
these were
Like the shifter carts.
high-powered go-karts.
Yeah,
these
like
were
the-
super karts.
Yeah, like the shifter carts with, I mean,
Yeah.
they do 65, 70 miles an hour, right?
No, 155 miles an hour.
Or they do 155 miles. That's, if I'm not mistaken, those are what a lot of the NASCAR guys get started out doing as their kids,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, unlimited class, 250cc, high-powered sort of supercar.
They're running
Yeah,
crazy tune pipes and crap on them.
Oh,
I've
yeah.
seen them.
We had a course by us that I've seen them. That it is nuts.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
place in Milwaukee that sells those things. I always wanted to get one, but it's probably better that I never did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I used to know a guy who lived in Denver, and he raced all over the country. A guy named Gene Osborne or J.R. Osborne, and he invited me to race at the national events. It was a week-long sort of series of events, and this particular year it was 2000, and it was over in Willow Springs in California, just on the edge of the Mojave Desert.
I used to race the Honda Pilots. You know what I'm talking about? The off-road
Yeah,
go-karts?
I do. Yeah, yeah.
And we would put 500cc street bike motors in them.
yeah.
And I mean, it was like we would go and do at short course trucks the races. We would be like the intermission. We would have a race, and they had a little circuit around the Midwest.
Right.
But that was a blast. But that gets expensive because finding parts for those things can get expensive now.
Yeah.
With them being gone
Yeah.
for so long.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I've used to race internationally over in Europe as well. In the go karts.
Are we
Or
boring you,
supercars.
Lee?
No, I'm just working.
He's building an
Yeah, so-
interior.
I'm building. Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. So I've driven quite a number of cars when I was younger.
All right. What's you want me to do the next question, Lee? Seeing as you're building,
No, I'm good. I'm good.
is the UK guest Margaret Thatcher?
Evidently, that's a no, according to Cary.
That guy's clever.
I don't know who
Oh.
Margaret Thatcher is.
She used to be the prime minister.
Oh,
Yep. Yeah, it's a wee bit before Chad's time.
yeah. I don't know.
The other one was pull setups.
That was Bernard.
Yes.
What is the most efficient way to set up a pole cables from the standpoint of making them easy to adjust? Clevises on both ends may not be pretty, so the cable can be spun without removing the clevises. Either way, you got to remove the clevises because you don't want to put a twist in your cable. You know, you don't want that to be under torsional strain.
Yep.
So I always pull my clevis off to adjust. I put the clevises inside on the servo because it gives it a lot cleaner look, and then I use the Nyko press. A lot of times I'll use the Robart. What are they? The super 3/4 inch super hinges. They got the metal
Forward.
ball in instead of the
Yeah,
plastic
super.
one.
Yep, that's super.
Yep. That way you don't risk the chance of the cable wearing on that plastic and wearing it out a lot quicker.
And it will, too.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
I prefer the ball joint ones.
The ball
Always,
joint ones.
The ball
Yeah.
link.
All links.
Yep.
For the larger models, definitely.
Oh, where the screw goes through the ball and screws into the control horn. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot safer. I've had quick links sort of fail.
Yeah, well, and you get a lot tighter setup, a better mechanical setup that way. Also, there's not as much slop in it, which can save on your servo as well.
That's the one, Lee.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you want a nice setup. You don't want them, guitar string tight, but you want them to work. And the other thing that a lot of people don't do is have the horns on the servo the same length as the moving surface, and that's where you get sort of disproportionate movement where one cable becomes slack against the other.
The Ackerman.
Yeah, that's why I use the 3/4, and that way I know exactly what size I need to use on my servo as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a big thing as well. But there is, I mean, you can, as long as it comes out as long as it's directly on the hinge point, the hinge line, the pivot line, and both sides are the same. I mean, I've used like a 1/2 inch tiller arm where it came out a 1/2 inch from the control point, the hinge point, and then where it's 3/4 of an inch on the servo. I've never had an issue with any of the geometry that way.
Yeah, it usually works out fairly good.
But a big thing is, in my opinion, is I'd like to use all straight stuff where, they sell like the offset rudder control horns. And I think that's for, I don't know what the exact reason for that is. I want to say that's when you crisscross them or something like that. But I just use everything straight directly on the hinge point. If you get it moved off the hinge point a little bit, that's when you have one that's pulling harder than the other one then, and you get where it's tightening because they're moving different distances because of the arcing.
Yeah. I'm trying something new, guys.
Whatever. I've given up on you, Lee.
I hear ya.
I also like to run my pull wires through the yellow Nyrod thing. Oh, that's that for your gauges, right?
Yeah. I'm going to try that and see what that does.
Are you going to do a little how-to thing on that if it works out?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I'm just doing a sample right now to see what it's going to look like. So,
What is that?
It's basically the water that they use for scenery for like trains and stuff.
Okay.
And I've seen a couple different people use it for different things, and I thought, man, that might be good for like glass and gauges.
Okay.
Instruments and stuff like that. So I'm going to give it a try and see what it does.
The other thing that I think would work out too, Lee, and I used to build the plastic models a lot. They have a canopy glue where you can make like the glass parts, and you basically you get some on your finger, and you can rub it around, and it kind of gets that like if you're blowing bubbles through the bubble, the where the water spans across the whole thing when you're blowing bubbles with the stick, it kind of does that, and then it'll dry and it creates that same effect, but it would be hollow underneath, and we used to do that on some of the plastic model stuff.
There you go.
But
yeah, I just want to try something different than just either epoxy or actually cutting out lenses. That sucks.
Yeah.
So just trying something new.
But yeah, I guess on the pull thing too, like Cary said, you don't want them crazy tight to where they're putting a crap load of strain on stuff. You should be able to move them around, the wires around. Now, granted, you don't want them quite as loose as the ones on my Newport got for a while there.
There you go.
Where you could have, an inch of deflection both ways because they're so loose.
Well, it made it interesting.
But I don't know.
Now, do you guys use tillers on yours too?
Huh?
On your pulls, do you guys ever use tillers? where you have just a straight like 440 rod go from the servo to the tiller, and then the pull cables are actually hooked up to that tiller, so it's taking the load off the servo output.
You mean like a separate crank arrangement?
Yeah,
Yes,
like a bell, basically like
crank.
a bell crank. Yeah.
Yeah. So some of the guys do that. Yeah, we do. I don't, but I haven't got a sort of that size of model that warrants that.
Well, and you know, a lot of the people, they do them because, like Lee said, to pull the strain off of the servo, so you're not pulling on the servo. But your pull cable shouldn't be that tight to where it's pulling on the servo.
Correct.
No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, when guys use the tillers, that's generally when they need either two servos to give the the quality and the strength of what they require. In some models you've got to do that. Have a pull arrangement on and have two servos on it, because you don't want to be putting servos directly in the tail for weight reasons. But again, it's all dependent upon the model. If you can afford to have some weight on the tail, then fine.
Now this brings me to another question, a little bit off, but I thought of it while we're for our wavered models that are over the 55 pound limit. They have the AMA basically came up with this formula, and it's based off of what type of flying you're going to do, whether it's just flat and level, mild aerobatic, or 3D, and then per square inch it tells you how many inch ounces your servo needs to be and how many servos you need per control surface. Does your LMA stuff have the same thing?
Not specifically, no.
No.
The aerobatic guys, some of them do prefer to have multiple servos mounted in the wing to operate flaps or ailerons, and direct drive straight onto the horn. The larger models do have that, and then they have either controlled by a power box so that they can be set up and tweaked so that they're all working correctly.
Yeah, and I ran into this once with one of the rudders on my wavered planes back when they first started this formula thing, and I needed, I don't know, I think it was like based off of the calculation, I needed like 800 inch ounces of servo or something like that to run that control, which was ridiculous because I was running it off of 1/300 for 2-3 years without an issue, based off of how I flew. But because of their formula, I needed this. And there's servos out there where you can buy some of the high-tech robotic servos and they have that output, but they say you can't use one servo, you have to have two servos. That's where I ran into that, and that was actually my first dual servo rudder setup that I ever did. I use the SWB. They make a tray and it automatically adjusts, and it's really nice. But and that way also, if you lose one of them with that SWB, it continues to work, even if one seizes up, I believe.
Definitely.
All right.
Yeah, I know some of the guys that fly the scale models, and they've got an arrangement whereby they've got one rod going to the elevators, but they've got two servos, and they want redundancy of should a servo fail, the other servo will kick in and still work. There are units out there that will still operate, but at a reduced throw should a servo seize completely.
Yep. I know B&B Specialties, that's one of their products that they have, where you can actually tie two servos together on a bar, and the control rod is actually hooked up to that crossbar, so that way if you did lose one servo, it can still move it. You're only going to get probably half the throw, but at least you still have throw.
Yeah, I didn't know they were commercially available because there's one guy in the UK that actually makes them himself.
Okay.
But I didn't know they were commercially available. I've seen the ones where they have a 2-servo tray with both servos tied together, and then the output off, sort of off the arms. Well, I've always thought that, if one servo completely seizes, the other servo can't overcome that problem. Then,
well, that's the SWBs is like that, and I'll have to look it up. But they have a system to where it'll compensate for it.
Yeah, Lee was just mentioning that they do it, the T-bar arrangement, that one side of it slides in and out to compensate for the movement, but the bar in the centre goes off to the moving surface. And if one servo should seize in a particular position, the other servo will take over, providing you find that centre point. Whilst if you've got time, and a seizure occurs at a particular throw point, then you find whilst you're flying, you'll obviously be holding your stick, and you'll know there's a problem with a servo, and it's still the opportunity. I personally, at the moment, still prefer the two servos separate on each flying surface for elevators.
Yeah.
But again, you still run that risk that if one servo fails in the down position, and the other servo's still operating, you're going to get a downward spiraling aircraft that you've got to fight to sort of gain some sort of level control.
Yeah, and the only time I ever used the servo tray was only on the rudders. I never did it on an elevator or an aileron. I would hook them up direct to surface, and I'll be honest, it's only one other plane I had where I had 2 servos per aileron, but I've never run into where I needed 2 servos per elevator half. Normally I split my elevator halves completely separate, but
yeah.
I'm trying to find them right now, and I can't.
What's that? The SWB ones?
No, for Bennett.
Oh.
But, oh well.
Yeah, it's not that important.
No, it's not. I'll find it and I'll send it to you, Cary.
Next question.
All right. What is it, Cary?
I don't know.
All right. Well, so much for that partnership. Tail bracing, turnbuckles or clevis?
Cable or rod. I normally I do a rod for my tail bracing. I don't do it with cable. Some of them I have done with the cable because of scale. But I mean, for the average modeler, the average airplane, just a piece of push rod works plenty good, in my opinion. Yep. I mean, it depends on how scale you want it to be, really.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was very few planes where the tail bracing, I mean, only the super early ones, where the tail bracing was actually a cable, not a rod anyways, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the way I'd go with it.
And I've never put a turnbuckle on it.
No.
Yeah.
On tail bracing?
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
No.
Too many things to fail there.
Well, D6 and D7 are both solid rods, aren't they?
Yeah. Yep. So, and
yes,
like I said, it was just the really, really early ones, or like the big, like the, what is it, the Emma set or whatever, that one that, I can't even remember his name. Sal. You know what I'm talking about?
Okay.
The one he did, that was all wire, but the real one was all wire, and it had a bunch of turnbuckles on it, but the real one had the turnbuckles, and he was just going crazy scale on it is all he was doing, you know?
Yeah.
Sal Cavagna. That's his last name.
Yeah, well, the Sopwith Pup, the Camel, they're all cable, all flat wire.
Yeah.
They have a form of a turnbuckle on it, but it doesn't look like a turnbuckle or a bottle screw that you really recognise. They're just like an adjusted sort of clevis that Mick Reeves do. But when you look at the real thing, it's a similar sort of design, that it has got a small amount of adjustment just to keep them not tight, but just to give support to the tail strut.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, for all practical purposes, on our models, normally, in my opinion, when you start getting the turnbuckles on there, they look so big and bulky a lot of the times. People use way too big of turnbuckles.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like the rib stitching that we went through. Everybody wants to see what they've done.
Yeah.
Be able, be it pronounced, where you don't really want to see that. It should blend into the airplane.
Yeah, well, and you look at the turnbuckles on mine, and I wish I had different ends so that I could have it where the turnbuckle actually attaches to the hard point versus having to have that little bit of cable in there.
Cable.
Kind of like if they had like a Dubro fork fitting that would thread into the turnbuckle. You know what I'm saying? So I like the turnbuckles on my Newport, but I don't like them at the same time. I get a lot of compliments on it, but I look at it and I see that cable before the hard point, and that's what irritates me about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. All right. The next one was best electric retracts for scale warbirds.
None.
None. Exactly.
None.
Go air or go home.
Yeah. I agree. I haven't had any electric retracts on anything big, and I've always used the air, and I know there's issues with air, but if you maintain your air system properly and you check it every once in a while like you should, haven't run into any crazy problems with my air retracts, my pneumatic retracts. And when I don't know where they're at now, but when Robart first came out with the electric ones, I talked to one of the guys who worked at Robart, and I mean, they even told me that if you want scale look, go with the electric because there's more programming options. But if you want consistent reliability because you're going to fly the crap out of the plane, go with the air, the pneumatic. So
yeah. I mean, it's just another mechanical place to fail. You got a jack screw in there that's actually moving the linkage, which on a retract, everything is getting transferred to that jack screw, whether you know it or not. So.
The other aspect to these, in respects of electrics, is the fact that the electronics is looking for a load. But when it reaches its limit, that switches off the motor.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there has been so many issues whereby the electronics on board has seen a load, and the wheels have either been half up or half down.
Yep.
Or they're stuck
because
the wing is flexed. They've seen that load when they've switched them on and nothing's happened.
Yeah, I agree. And that was one of the big issues. I seen more electric retracts not work than pneumatic retracts. So
and with a pneumatic system, if it's a slight stiffness, that will usually overcome it being stuck.
Yep.
And the other thing is regarding the pneumatics, there is now equipment on the market that if it spots a leak, it puts your wheels down and says, you've got a leak, and before it goes down, I'm dropping your wheels.
Oh yeah. My P39, that is all pneumatic.
They use a pressure sensor for that? Is that what they use? So when it drops to a certain PSI, it automatically... All right.
Yep.
It's a little device made by a company called Zykoi.
Yep.
And it's an inline unit, and if you set it to a certain pressure, and as soon as it hits that pressure, your wheels are down.
Yeah, there's actually a few of them. There's
my
actually a few-
my quarter scale P51 is having one of those fitted. But if I've got a problem, my wheels come down.
Yeah, that's smart. That's real smart, actually. And I mean,
Yep.
the weight of a pressure sensor is nothing compared
Nothing.
to the amount of work that you have to do when you're doing a gear up landing, or worse yet, when your gear's halfway down just flopping.
Yep.
Yeah.
You ain't
Yep.
kidding.
Well, you don't get that with an electric retrax.
No,
No.
definitely not. Definitely
And
not.
and the other thing is, if you be sensible as regarding your retract system anyway, you can set those up so they've got a realistic time to come down and go back up instead of bang open and bang shut.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Um,
And I know one of the things, everybody was having years ago having issues with pneumatic retracts. 99% of the time that they were having a binding issue wasn't that there was anything physically touching, the wing or the wheel well or anything like that. It was that the gear rails were not perfectly flat, and it would actually put the frames into a bind when you tighten up the unit. And it just transferred back to the retract and the linear motion and everything else. And that's a lot of times that's where you'd end up having problems with it. So
Yeah.
as long as you get it all shimmed out and squared out and, nice, and you should have no problems with it unless you come in, obviously, and don't flare or something like that.
Well, and another tip I can give you or I can give the listeners when setting up your electric retracts, or not electric, but pneumatic ones, and you're setting up the speeds at which they come up, I use a leaf blower, and I will blow on the gear as I'm setting that, because as you're flying, you get a load on that gear. And so that's what the leaf blower stimulating, and you can really fine tune it nice. And that's how I always got mine, so that they didn't do any of the snapping fairly quickly anyways. So.
And that's where you run into issues on rotating retract, where that wheel starts acting as a brake, big old air brake,
Yeah.
like a Wildcat or what have you.
I
So-
also, and I probably went
Right.
overboard, but I also put a different valve for each gear, so that I could adjust each gear independently. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So I wasn't running all three gear with the one valve. I know they make them where you can run three different, where they have the set or the screw, the
Yep.
needle.
Bleed valve.
Yeah, but I've always run a separate one for each gear. The weight of those little things and the ease that makes it is way nicer.
For sure.
I've done it in the past whereby I've ran a wheel collet, a brass wheel collet, onto the tube, and I've just used the grub screw to actually squeeze the tube a little bit.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, that's kind of
Just-
like what
just
you
a
do on your
restrictor.
smoke, right, Lee?
Yep.
Yeah.
Just a restrictor.
It's a little bit crude, but it does work.
Yeah.
But you have to check your tube regularly, because obviously, if it's flopping about with that collet on it, you may sort of cut into the tube.
Yep.
But it's okay to sort of find out.
Yeah.
Once you've
and-
got your settings, then put a better solution in there.
Mhm.
But it's a good test to enable you to sort of, if like a lot of World War II aircraft, take the ME 109, BF 109 or whatever, one wheel was nearly in all the way up before the other one starts to retract, and that was just economies as regarding the hydraulic system.
Yep. When we get the pressure first.
Yeah. We got any more questions at all?
I think that's it. Yeah, that's all that I had.
All right.
I mean, that's all of them, but what's the meaning of life?
Who
Never mind.
knows?
Scratch that one.
Model airplanes, that's the meaning of life.
There you go.
Um,
We'll give that to the new guy to research.
Now,
Get back to us and give us the report.
well, that's simple. That's simple. The new guy's answer is it's either an obsession or a passion. Which one is it?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Yes, there's the answer.
There you go.
54.
I think it's both.
Yep.
All right.
Man, I filled in the bubble with a number 3 pencil, though. Darn it.
I did want to talk. I mentioned about that. When I bought that PT19, it came with that Evra 1.8 engine that I had no clue. I've never seen one, never heard of one. So on Facebook, I put up a post saying, "Hey, what is this engine? Does anybody know?" And for one, I'm amazed at how many people apparently don't read, because I never once asked if it was junk or not. I just asked what it was. And there was one guy that comments, "Oh, it's junk." Well, thanks for helping.
Yeah.
There's always that
It's
one
a
guy.
paperweight then.
Yeah.
It's a paperweight.
Which and I wasn't planning on using it either way, so that comment was completely irrelevant. But the other thing is, I found out what it was and I posted what it was with documentation, and I was still for like 3-4 days getting people telling me it was something else. It's like, do you guys not read through the comments before you comment yourself?
Nope, they don't.
I don't know. I always do. Normally, if it's got 100 and some comments and I don't want to read it, I just assume it's been answered and don't comment anyways. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, a lot
my-
of people don't actually read all the way through it. They form an opinion on what they read at the very initial comment, and then they got to have it get it on there somehow, some way, some shape, some form.
Yeah, there was some people, they were arguing, saying that it was a Ryobi conversion or something like that.
Yeah.
And they obviously didn't look at the picture, because I've never seen a Ryobi crankcase have a beam mount for any kind of weed eater or anything like that. They would just never use a beam mount. It's too much money. I mean, it was said what it was earlier, which I'm guessing they probably used a Ryobi head. They probably bought that. Because I know a lot of the early engine manufacturers did that. They would take the engines out there and make new cranks or new cases for them so that they could mount conventionally.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of that used to go on. So.
Well, it's like the US engines.
Yep.
US engines are basically a Zenoa.
Yeah.
Yep.
I got a 41 if you need it.
I've got a 41. Do you want one?
No, I got one I'm trying to give away. So, and I got an Evra. I got an Evra 1.8 also. So, if you need one.
Junk.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I really hate the people that comment that. Oh. But
Where did your video keep going, Chad?
I pulled the cord out of my earphones. Couldn't hear nothing for a second there. Couldn't hear myself talk. It's crazy when you can't hear yourself talk.
Lee, I'll repeat it for him. Junk.
Yep.
Well, and that's fine. That's fine.
Hey,
that
Chad,
you.
Chad, I'll translate. Junk.
Hey, what I'm saying is that's fine if people think it's junk, but the question was, does anybody know what kind of engine was this? I didn't ask if it was good or not. So.
Well, they did give you a valid answer, though.
Well, but you know what? I'm sure there's people out there that have ones that run, and they run perfectly fine, I'm sure. It may not have the most horsepower out there, may not have the most torque out there, but if it flies an airplane, which it obviously does, because there's people started giving me videos of them flying the airplanes. So it's not necessarily the motor for me. I'll agree with that, because I don't like a motor I have to constantly work on. But, I mean, that don't mean you should put people down if they want to use that engine.
No, definitely not.
No.
But, yeah, it's junk. I don't ever plan on using it. Yeah. One guy commented...
I've got a Zenoa 38 that people still seem to think that it's a 3W55. It goes like snot off a shovel.
And I've used a lot of Zenoas, but I've shied away from Zenoa because I really like electronic ignition.
I had one of the electronic ignitions in Noah's, and it was the worst running engine that I had. The Magneto ones run great, and they'll run forever. But I just don't want to mess around with the Magneto stuff, me personally. So I choose engines that are electronic
The Magneto
ignition.
stuff runs fine.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, my D7 has got a geared 62 in it. It was a pain in the butt to actually start until I got an easy start, and now starts beautifully.
Yeah. Well, and we had the D7 with the G62 with the Tony Clark reduction in it. And we flip started ours all the time and never had an issue. And I can flip start a Zenoa without an issue. The thing is, I just don't prefer them myself. But that doesn't mean when somebody posts about it, because I don't like them, I say throw it out and get something different. Because they are still good running engines and they work great. Just not what I want.
Yep.
No, I mean, my D7's got the Mick Reeves Torque Master, which has got a slightly different gearing.
Yeah.
And they are hard to start, but with the Easy Start unit, it starts so easily. It's lovely.
Yeah, we got and this goes into, we had the Mick Reeves and we had the Tony Clark on our G62, and we found that the Tony Clark for us worked way better. The gearing seemed to be better suited for the motor. The Mick Reeves, it really revved up a lot, and it didn't have near the power that the Tony Clark one did inside the model. So
right,
but for the G38, the Mick Reeves was that one's great. That's what we had in the pup.
Yeah.
So, which answers what's
Gary
his name?
Eaton's.
No, Dale Benish asked that question about he was building a pup or a 28, and he wanted to know what gear drive to put so he could put a 62 in it. And a 62 with a gear drive on a pup or a Newport 28 third scale is going to be way too much. Go with the G38 with the gear drive.
You got it.
You'll be you'll be prop hanging with that.
Oh yeah.
You got that right.
Yeah. The G38 is the one you want to do for that, Dale.
Yeah.
So, and that I recommend the Mick Reeves. That was. It was the Mick Reeves, or was it the Tony Clark?
Tony Clark.
All right, so maybe it was the Mick Reeves one that we have in the D7, and the Tony Clark was the one that didn't have the power.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's my bad. We had the Mick Reeves in our D7 then. Yeah. So disregard that whole thing I said about the Mick Reeves having less power than the Tony Clark.
Just flip-flop it.
Yeah,
Never
whatever.
mind.
Yeah, no. Any guy in the UK that flies a D7 has either a Zenoa 62 with a Torque Master fitted. That's the general one to go for. There is another drive that's recommended, which is the Schlunt drive.
Ah, that's it, the Schlunt. That's what I was talking about. Maybe we had the Schlunt. I don't remember which one anymore. I never worked on it, so it was Balsa USA's airplane.
Right.
I just flew it.
Right. Yeah, the Schlunt drives are very good. They are very good.
So I don't remember. Either way, it ran great. I liked it, but it was more maintenance than I wanted to do on an airplane.
Kind of like a Moki radial, huh?
Yeah. We'll see. It may get pulled out eventually. I don't know. I'm going to try it with the Moki, and I hope that I enjoy it. That's what I'm putting on my half scale. I have a Moki for it.
Wow.
The Newport 17. So I just hope that it doesn't turn into a maintenance nightmare.
Yeah.
Well, the guys over here that run Mokis, they say leave them alone.
Yeah.
Once you've run them in, leave them alone. They're fine. Start messing, you're in a heap of trouble.
Yeah, well, and we got a lot of the Horizon guys run them. I think Allie is friends with the some people from that company also, from Moki, if I'm not mistaken, when I was talking to him once. But yeah, so I decided to get a Moki, and that's what they told me. They said, because we had one, and we were told after every flight, check your valve spacing, the tappet spacing, and check the exhaust nuts.
Yep.
And that was just, it's fine if you have a open, no cowl around it like we did on the Stearman, but I'm thinking all these guys that have them in their World War IIs, they can't be doing that stuff every time. And I can't imagine that an engine would stay around if you had to do that every single flight. So I was going towards, I was just going to run it, and every once in a while I would take the cowl off and check to make sure there wasn't anything noticeable, coming loose or whatever. But yeah, I'm not planning on doing a whole lot of maintenance on that.
After this settled in and everything's settled down, obviously running in, you've got to check your clearances. But once you've got them settled, then it's just run time.
Mm-hmm.
If it's sort of like 2 hours worth of running or whatever it is, a friend of mine, Trevor Wood, he's a Moki master. He's got P47, Sea Fury, and he says once I've settled them in, they're fine, but I do maintain them that after I've run them for so many hours, they just get checked over.
Well, after 2 hours, that's every flight then.
True.
Now I've got the Sato, the 3 cylinders. I've got a couple of those, and I'll run those for like 5 hours, and then I'll just pull the rocker covers off just to check it. I put a little red line oil on them just because I have them open and it's easy to do at the time. But I found after a couple hours, I didn't have to. I would check the with a feeler gauge, and it was always fine. But yeah, I just pulled it apart just to make sure.
Satos are probably the best.
Yeah. And, I've had all these people, that Ray English thing, doing the Ray English mod with this. I didn't do any of that. I was told not to by Pete Goldsmith. And I haven't had issues with mine. I had one where the rocker arm got dry, but I was told that was from the RPM. I'm always running at such a low RPM because I got a 84cc, the 84 in my third scale Newport 17, and I'm running like third throttle the whole flight, and I have crazy power with it.
Well, they have modified them now, haven't they, to overcome that problem that they had?
Oh, they have?
Yeah.
All right.
As I understand it, that they've done a modification to them.
Sato has?
Yes.
All right. That must be incorporated on the new 90s then, eh?
Yes.
All right.
That's as I understand it, yeah.
Yeah, because that was the only issue I had. But, there again, that's why after 5 hours when I pulled the covers off, I would just put a couple of drops of oil on them, and then it was fine after that. I got Lee knows I got crap loads of hours on mine.
Yep.
No issues. Everybody that I see that has the Ray English mod done, they're the runs that are having issues. So
they swear by it.
Yep. You got to have this done because it'll only last a couple of days if you don't do it. Well, it lasts a week if you do, I guess, and mine's still running after.
Yeah.
I think I burnt last summer. I went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 25 gallons through it last summer.
Wow.
Because I had to fill up my I filled up my gas can a fifth time. I didn't use it all, and I run a 5-gallon gas can. But then again, the first week I went out, I had that 2-gallon one, so maybe I did burn about 25 gallons through it.
Yeah.
And I had a 32-ounce tank, and it would fly for an hour and a half, and I'd still land with fuel. So that's a lot of flying I did with it.
Yep. Oh yeah.
So
yeah, I remember getting bored many times watching it fly. So
that plane that was so much fun. That setup is so great in that airplane. That Sato 84 with the third scale World War One. It was just a blast.
Yep. Definitely. All right. Do you want to go into the tool time?
Oh, are we going to do that? I forgot about that.
Do you? It don't matter to
Do you
me.
want to do it, or do we want to just skip it? I mean, we already got almost 3 hours worth of recorded material.
I've got it pulled up if you want me to do it.
All right, go ahead and do it. Well, actually,
All right.
You know what? Yeah, go ahead and do it.
All right.
Lee, where you going? We're trying to do a show here. Oh, I guess it's time for In the Toolbox with Lee Watkins.
The tool tip, or the new tool this week, or this third week, whatever you want to call it.
Third week?
Is going to be, well, every third week we seem to do a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
So
All right. Go ahead.
that's the wrong one. This one's going to tie in with my P39 build, which this is actually a tip that I seen from Greg Hahn, which was ingenious, and I loved it. And 'cause I always did it with the chart pack tape, was burning in your panel lines, the soldering gun, wood burning gun, what have you. The one I purchased for it is through Amazon. I'll put the link up on our page. It's a 60 watt non-screw-in wood burning pen. It sells for $47 right now. It comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like it's coming with 12 different tips that go in there. The reason I bought this one is not a screw-in one like most of the wood burning tips are. It does not come with the razor blade or the X-Acto blade holder, but it does have 2 chisel points, which I have used, and it will work for burning in the panel lines. I played around with it so far, and I do like it. It's nice, light, comfortable, and it does have a adjustable thermostat on it. And the thermostat range goes from 200 to 450 degrees centigrade. So that works plenty at 200 degrees for burning in the panel lines. But yeah, I will put the link on there. And so far so good. Everything's working good on it. So that's what I have.
How do you do your panel lines, Cary?
Well, obviously there is the chart pack tape method where you draw them onto the fuselage, get them all settled down, then spray sort of a high filler primer just over the tape, just to build it up. Few coats of that, and then when it's starting to sort of go off, then pull the chart pack tape away. But that again can add weight. But I recently learned the method that Mr. Hahn has, where he uses a soldering iron with a flat blade on, which I really like that idea.
Well, it makes it not so pronounced, or not. I mean, you don't end up with a 16th inch or 32nd inch panel line. Yeah, it looks a lot better, I think.
Yeah, and you all you're doing is going onto existing primer paint. Whereas if you put the chart pack paint on, the chart pack tape, after you flat the model down to the shape that you want it to be.
I gotta stop you right there. I gotta stop you right there, Cary. Just for our English friends, flatting down means sanding down. Okay, go ahead, Cary. I'm translating. Sorry.
Last time he's on the show.
It's kind of like aluminum.
Yeah. Sanding stroke flatting down. And then you're adding more weight on by spraying more paint on. So the idea that Greg Hahn has got is brilliant. I love that. But I also use my soldering iron for certain rivets, which you guys do as well.
Yeah.
But then again, I also buy the vinyl cut rivets as well.
I tell you what, for the flush mount rivets, the flush rivets, I have a wheel, and I got brass tube that I put on this wheel. So I can just roll, and it puts all the little rings in the primer. Then you paint over the top of that with your color that you're using, and that works out really good. And it's way better than doing each one individually with a brass tube.
Yeah, well, the paint's got to be not hard, hasn't it, for the roller to work?
No, I just do it over the primer. The primer can be completely set, and the brass tube, I'll sharpen the brass tube a little bit, file so that it's kind of like a knife point, around it. And then I just roll it over, and it really works really nice. Tony Lewis was the one who taught me that. I don't know where he learned it from, but yeah, that worked out really good.
Right. I mean, I've not used the roller, but I've tried to sharpen, a brass tube, and always found that a little bit difficult because you're forever having sort of getting hold of the brass tube and twisting it to sort of get it to cut into the primer paint.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the roller, you just like rolling it on.
Yeah, but
so you must be able to get it super sharp for it to cut into the primer paint.
No, not really. I mean, I file it so that it's to a blade edge. You know what I'm saying? Because of when it's rolling over, it kind of rolls on. It's not you're putting the whole thing down, so you don't need near as much force because it's kind of starting as it's going. Kind of like how in a lot of when you have the roller cutters for plastic, it's working the same way,
Yeah.
So.
Well, my method of those flush rivets is actually attach onto my soldering iron a quick link tube adapter. The sort of the Cavan or whatever links, and they've got that. The piece with the thread on where you stick the tube in the other side.
Yep.
Then you solder it up.
Yeah, we call them.
Well, actually,
I think we just call them adapters here. I don't remember. But
yeah. Well, I put a sharp edge on the tube receptor. Screw, and I've made an adapter on my soldering iron that I can screw in these different sizes of these adapters, because you can get 2mm, 3mm, and so on. And I've made myself out of some 16th ply, different distance holes, little sort of grooves on one edge of the ply, lay it down in a line, and so you've got a sort of a line going along, and then just with the soldering iron with that tip on, just
so it's like a little jig to keep everything nice and straight and spaced evenly. Yeah, I never thought about that. That would work good too. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, time consuming.
See if I can get that. That's the tip. I know the guys that are listening can't see it, but that's the tip that comes with it. Let me unspread it here real quick.
That's a flat blade on that tip, yeah, Lee?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
I know Greg Horn uses like a broken off X-axle blade, doesn't he?
Yep, another number 11. The reason I went with this one here is the tips here. They're actually hollow. The heating element goes inside of this tip here, so that's where all the heat transfers at. So if you take this off, the white tip right there, that's the ceramic heater.
Yeah.
So now I can actually, on the lathe, I can actually cut out whatever I want, either out of aluminum, copper, or whatever, to make my own, either rivet tool or whatever. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever size I want, or even doing like Zeus fasteners or what have you, I can go bigger than that and turn it down too. So
sure.
That's the main reason why I went with this style one versus the one that like Greg had. So
okay.
Just my own personality of it. So, but
yeah.
That'll work.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Did we lose him? Did he hit the wrong button?
I'm still here.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh.
Oh, now he's back.
I don't see him.
Well, he probably did that on purpose.
Uh-oh. I
Um,
lost shoot now, Chad.
well, it doesn't matter.
I'm tired of looking at you anyway. Never mind.
I'm not going to do a safety thing today just because I don't
Yeah.
feel like it.
Oh, I will, Chad. Don't burn yourself. Okay,
Yeah.
there we go.
Don't burn yourself when putting in panel lines.
All right, fair enough.
All right.
Don't hold your soldering iron by the hot end.
Yeah.
You can, but you're not going to do it for very long, I guarantee you.
I guess that's the end of the show then, eh?
All righty.
I want to thank you, Cary, for coming on the show.
It's been emotional.
I'm sure it
I bet
has.
you have.
So, and again, I want
It was
to
nice talking to you, Gary.
I want to
know you
thank
probably won't ever talk to us again.
I want to thank the guys who support the show: Rotoron, National Balsa, Robart, Frank Tiano Enterprises, Best Pilots,
Yes. RC Outlaws.
Well, that's us.
That's
Did I get them all?
I'm trying to think now. Dang it. As many times I had to retype them and type them in and everything, I should know. all now.
Pete Goldsmith models.
Yes, signs. Pete Goldsmith design.
Yep. I think that's it.
If I had my ChadLee shirt on right now, I could tell you. But I don't have it on.
I want a white one.
I'm going to get you a white one, Cary. It's going to be bleached, like I told you.
And
it's going to be tie-dye.
I guess Cary helped you out too, right? We can name him. What's his company again? Carber.
Carber Composites.
Yeah. You can tell how much time I spent getting to know that company.
Yeah. And
Memorize that one.
my size for the robot T-shirt is large, Lee.
Large. A spelt large, like somebody else we know.
Who are you talking about?
Lyle Vassar.
Oh. Why
He said
you
either.
getting
Never
him
mind.
a Robart shirt?
I don't know. Am I?
I don't know. I thought that's what I heard.
That sounds like he's
I
one.
thought Lee was the local sponsor for, sort of robot.
You want this one right here?
Yeah.
I can work a deal on that one.
Lee's giving his shirt away.
I'll give you the shirt off my back. That's the kind of guy I am.
Oh,
Yeah,
boy.
you don't get sort of robot those sort of accessories in the UK.
No? All right.
No.
Well, you
I
know
will-
what? Even if I have to pay for it, we will
I'll
get
get
you
you
a
one.
Robart shirt.
Yep.
No,
will do
I'll
that.
pay for if you can get one. I'll pay for my own. But
Yeah.
I would like to robot shirt.
They run
get you
right
one.
around $65.
Give or take.
less 90% discount.
Yeah.
All right, just a second.
All right.
Yep,
Remember, what happens in the hangar stays in the hangar.
yep, and keep calm and build the plane.
Yeah.
That's the one. Well, boys, it's been emotional.
Excellent.
All right, thanks again, Cary. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Gary. Have
Talk
a
to you
good one,
soon,
buddy.
guys.
Yep,
All
Have a
right.
good week.
bye.
You too.
Cheers.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, wow. You still there, Lee? Everybody hung up. Well, thanks for listening, guys. Bye.
I cast my bets at the surfing club. 21 is the game that I love. Roll them dice and shoot them craps. Stick around, cause I am coming back. And I know someday I'm gonna make it better. velvet tables, losing my mind whenever I am able. And I know someday I'm gonna make a